Chapter 208. Seeing this, Qin Yojiao could not help gritting her teeth and glancing at Bai Yunj gloomily. How could she not know that the Yu family was more powerful than the Qing family? After all, that was an aristocratic family that could even talk to the Hua family. She looked at Qing Zihuai's handsome face and knew that Qing Zihuai could not help her anymore. Qin Yojiao gritted her teeth and could only hold it in. I spoke inappropriately about this matter and made Miss Yu unhappy. I'll apologize to Miss Yu here. She looked at Yu Manran. After mentally preparing herself, she took a deep breath. I'm sorry, Miss Yu. I shouldn't have doubted you in public. The different gazes around made Qin Yojiao feel that she had embarrassed herself today. Seeing Qin Yojiao apologize, Qing Zihuai felt like he had been humiliated in public and looked at Bai Yunj with dark eyes. He could not touch the Yu family. However, Bai Yunj was the one who started all of this. Qing Zihuai clenched his fists. As long as he entered the A.M. Computing Institute and developed the Qing Corporation's information technology industry into the top industry in the country, he would make Bai Yunj regret going against him now sooner or later. At this thought, Qing Zihuai's expression softened and he pushed Qin Yojiao away. Soon. Yu Hanran walked in front of Bai Yunj and smiled insincerely. Little girl, shouldn't you thank me for helping you so much? Did Qin Yojiao apologize to me? Yu Hanran was speechless. Why does this little girl look like Master Du? I wonder why Master Du likes a little girl like you, Yu Hanran muttered unconsciously. Hearing this, Bai Yunj suddenly remembered something and smiled brightly. Although I know President Yu's usual habits, I still hope that if President Yu doesn't have anything serious to do, it's best if you don't bring your friends out to play. How could Yu Hanran not tell that Bai Yunj was trying to say that he was a playboy? All of a sudden, Yu Hanran knew why Bai Yunj said that. It was because of the time when he and Hua Shidu met their business partner at the clubhouse. Little girl, you've really wronged me this time. That time, I had something to discuss. Otherwise, how capable do you think I am to ask Master Du out? Yu Hanran could not help but laugh. In his heart, he was even more curious about Hua Shidu and Hua Jinyao. Originally, he thought it was the big bad wolf and the little white rabbit, but he didn't expect it to be a little fox. Interesting. After listening to the explanation, Bai Yunj raised her eyebrows. She did not expect that she had received the wrong information. I see. Bai Yunj nodded and left after saying a few words. Thank you for your hard work. Yu Hanran. After Bai Yunj left, Yu Manran changed into a pair of lower heels and came back. Where's Gu? Where's Gu? Yu Manran looked excited. Yu Hanran glanced at her. When did you meet her? Just last month. Wasn't it because, Yu Manran was about to say something, but she was worried about Bai Yunj and shut her mouth. She rolled her eyes and left. It's none of your business. Yu Hanran, after watching this big show, everyone thought that today's gossip would be over. However, they did not expect to see Mother Qin, who was wearing a lake blue cheongsam, appear in front of everyone. Everyone knew that Mother Qin had publicly severed ties with her daughter who had just been found. Chapter 209. The Qin family must have monopolized the gossip business this year. Since the second half of the year, their family has been gossiping non-stop. A baby-faced girl was speechless. Yes, if it were our family, no one would be willing to listen. The baby-faced girl was speechless. Sorry for the interruption. She was not worthy. There were also many guests in the living room. When Mrs. Qin arrived, many rich madams surrounded her. After all, the Qin family's 3 sons and their beloved daughter had always been popular in the circle. Mrs. Qin, you're finally here. Is it only the daughter of the family today? Are the young masters so difficult to invite? A madam joked. It's too difficult to manage the 3 of them. They rarely come home and have their own opinions, Mrs. Qin said with a smile. That's a blessing. All 3 of her sons are so outstanding. That's right. Not to mention the 3 sons, the daughter is also amazing. No one has been able to catch up to our Jiao Jiao since she was young, right? Mrs. Qin did not lose her composure when she heard the flattery around her. She smiled gracefully. Unexpectedly, suddenly, a madam who had just returned from the garden and was obviously not familiar with the news on the internet said frankly. Mrs. Qin's other daughter is also very good, isn't she? I saw her playing the piano in the garden just now. She's even better than Jiao Jiao. Hearing this, the harmonious atmosphere suddenly froze. One of the madams saw that Mrs. Qin's expression was not very good. She immediately pulled the honest madam and said with a smile, "What are you talking about? Jiao Jiao's piano skills are one of the best in the circle." The madams present all thought that this honest madam was deliberately bragging about Bei Yunj to curry favor with Mrs. Qin. However, she should have at least asked around and found out that Mrs. Qin and the new daughter had already broken off their relationship. I'm not joking. The madam, who looked extremely young, continued to speak stubbornly. You didn't see it, but the eldest miss of the Yu family and Jiao Jiao only played the zither once, and she played every single one of them. That's amazing. She's really a genius. These words were like a slap to Mrs. Qin's face. However, this madam still looked at Mrs. Qin with approval. Nurture her well. She'll definitely bring more honor to your family than Jiao Jiao. Mrs. Qin suppressed the displeasure on her face and maintained her composure. That's not my daughter. I only have one daughter, Jiao Jiao. Ah. What did you say? The young madam was stunned. I've severed ties with her. Mrs. Li, please don't mention her to me. Mrs. Qin's tone was distant and cold. She's so pretty and smart. Mrs. Qin, you. Mrs. Li thought it was ridiculous. Who wouldn't want to nurture a famous artist? Is Mother Qin crazy? Done. Mother Qin's face darkened and she sneered. What do you mean by learning how to play after listening to it once? I don't even know what tricks she used. Even the madams beside her were at a loss for words. Even if the relationship was severed, Bei Yunj was still Mrs. Qin's biological daughter. How could he splash dirty water on his own daughter in front of outsiders? Mrs. Qin, Mrs. Li looked at Mrs. Qin's dark face and didn't want to continue being annoying. She could only sigh. That girl was beautiful, had an unbelievably good temperament, and played the piano well. Mrs. Qin didn't know who would be at a disadvantage if she didn't acknowledge such a daughter. Chapter 210. Mrs. Li sighed. In her heart, she still wanted to build a good relationship with Bei Yunj. This girl was born with a noble appearance. If she was her daughter, she could be a vegetarian for a year. Mrs. Qin, can you give me her contact number? Mrs. Li stepped on the tiger's tail, her expression still sincere. Mrs. Qin's expression darkened and she only said 2 words. Delete it. At this moment, the other madams were afraid that Mrs. Qin would flare up on the spot. Fortunately, Qin Youjiao arrived not long after. Mom, why are you only here now? Qin Youjiao said with a smile. Hearing this, Mrs. Qin immediately turned around and walked to Qin Youjiao's side, saying with heartache, I already said that the injury on your leg hasn't healed yet, but you still insisted on coming over to celebrate old Madame Lu's birthday. I was training overseas for a year and didn't come to see Grandma Lu. I definitely have to come this time. Hearing this, Mrs. Qin's attention was not on these words. Instead, she noticed Qin Youjiao's red eyes. Jiao Jiao, why are your eyes red? Did you cry just now? Changing the topic, Mrs. Qin's expression darkened. It's Bei Yunj, isn't it? Mrs. Qin, what are you talking about? Miss Pei didn't do anything, Mrs. Li said unhappily. Hearing this, the other madams looked at Mrs. Li with admiration. This Mrs. Li was a tough person. Suddenly, Qing Zihuai said, Auntie Qin, I'm sorry. I didn't take good care of Jiao Jiao. How can I blame you for this? Hearing this, Mrs. Qin's expression softened, but she hated Bei Yunj even more. As long as she came, Jiao Jiao would be in trouble. Jinx. Everyone knew who Mrs. Qin was talking about. At this moment, Qin Yojiao grabbed Mrs. Qin's hand. "Mom, it's okay. I've done something to let her down before." Mrs. Qin's expression was terrible as she pursed her lips and remained silent. All of a sudden, "What's wrong with Auntie Qin?" Not far away, someone laughed. Hearing this, the darkness on Mrs. Qin's face disappeared. She went forward to hold the person's hand and said lovingly, "Yun Noa, why are you here?" This was the eldest young lady of the Yun family and the second daughter-in-law that Mrs. Qin wanted to matchmake. For Qin Yu, Yun Nook was willing to develop in the entertainment industry. Now, she was a popular celebrity in the industry. "I wanted to see Auntie and Sister Jiao Jiao." Yun Noa looked at Qin Yojiao in surprise. "Jiao Jiao, what happened to your leg?" "It's nothing. I accidentally fell." Qin Yojiao chuckled. Yun Noa frowned. She had seen the news online too. She didn't know what was wrong with Qin Yu. He was suddenly so good to that new sister. And his relationship with Qin Yojiao seemed to have worsened. "Jiao Jiao, what happened between you and your second brother?" Yun Noa asked gently. "I don't know either. Second brother might have heard something from someone." Qin Yojiao lowered her head and gripped her skirt tightly. Mother Qin sneered, "What else could it be?" Someone came back and turned the Qin family upside down. Hearing this, Mrs. Li restrained herself from arguing with Mrs. Qin. She rolled her eyes elegantly and left with her wine glass. This family seemed to be sick in the head. She was such a good daughter, yet he despised her. Yun Noa glanced at Mrs. Li who had left. She didn't know if she should interfere in the Qin family's matters, although she had always had a good relationship with Qin Yojiao. However, this was also to be with Qin Yu. "Sister, the desserts here are not bad." Qin Yojiao suddenly took a few macarons for her and revealed the diamond necklace on her wrist intentionally or unintentionally. Chapter 211. A dark look flashed past Yun Noa's eyes. That was the only one Qin Yu had bought at an auction in our nation. Back then, she thought that Qin Yu would give it to her, but she didn't expect him to give it to Qin Yojiao. This also showed how much Qin Yu loved his sister. At this thought, Yun Noa concluded that Bei Yunj was too scheming and caused Qin Yu and Qin Yojiao to have a bad relationship. After all, they had been siblings for more than 10 years. At this thought, a smile appeared on Yun Noa's face. She bent down and said to Qin Yojiao, "Jiao Jiao, Sister Yun Noa will settle this for you. Just have fun." "Sister Yun Noa, you," Qin Yojiao frowned, looking very worried. "I'm from the Yun family. No one will say anything about you. No one can touch me." Hearing this, a strange glint flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes. She did not tell Yun Noa that Bei Yunj was staying at Huashidu's place. Bei Yunj followed the street lights and strolled around the garden. Half an hour later, she returned to the banquet. At the same time, Yun Noa waited for about 10 minutes before she saw Bei Yunj. A trace of surprise flashed past her eyes. She had seen Bei Yunj before, but at that time, Bei Yunj gave people the feeling that she was introverted and gloomy, making people feel uncomfortable just by looking at her. However, she never thought that Bei Yunj would completely change her appearance now. "Miss Pei." After Yun Noa regained her senses, she walked up to Bei Yunj. "What's the matter?" Bei Yunj glanced at her, her tone lazy. She walked to the long table, took some food, and placed it on the plate. "I know that you've never liked Jiao Jiao, but no matter what, Jiao Jiao has lived with her 3 brothers for so many years." Yun Noa smiled and said, "You can't compare to her." Hearing this, Bei Yunj was not unhappy at all. Instead, she snorted. She glanced at Yun Noa calmly and raised an eyebrow, looking extremely charming. "I can't compare to her. Why are you still talking to me?" "For a moment." Promise Yun choked on her words, and her face turned red. She didn't expect Bei Yunj to speak like a completely different person. "What did you say to Qin Yu?" Bei Yunj glanced at her indifferently. She remembered that in the original novel, Qin Yu had indeed gotten together with Yun Noa in the end, so she couldn't be bothered to say anything. She slowly ate the dessert, but when Yunnoa saw this, her face darkened. She rarely met anyone who gave her such an attitude. Not long after. Before Bei Yunj could pick up the steeped oolong tea, Yunnoa suddenly moved her elbow and bumped into Bei Yunj's hand. She knocked over the oolong tea that Bei Yunj had just picked up. Seeing this, Bei Yunj's expression did not change. Yunnoa smiled and poured a glass of water for Bei Yunj. "Drink some water. Isn't it good?" A moment later. Bei Yunj took the water from Yunnoa. At this moment, the smile in Yunnoa's eyes deepened. However, in the next moment, before Yunnoa could say anything, Bei Yunj suddenly raised the glass of water. She calmly met Yunnoa's gaze, her moist red lips curving. In an instant, a steady stream of warm water poured from Yunnoa's head to her tail. It made Yunnoa scream involuntarily. It also attracted everyone's attention. "Miss Yun, are you awake? If you're awake, take care of yourself in the future." Bei Yunj's eyes were filled with viciousness. If it was the people around Bei Yunj in her previous life, they would all know that although Bei Yunj liked to eat desserts, she had to have tea to relieve her boredom after the meal. Chapter 212. Yunnoa had hit the nail on the head at the right time. Bei Yunj? For the first time, anger surged in Yunnoa's chest. It kept hitting her rationality as she gritted her teeth and stared at Bei Yunj. At this moment, everyone saw that Yunnoa was drenched and standing in front of Bei Yunj in a sorry state. There was also a broken teacup on the ground. It was obvious that this was the prelude to a fight. However, Bei Yunj ignored Yunnoa's presence and walked to the side, drinking her tea slowly. Seeing this, everyone's interest was piqued. Was it that good? However, Yunnoa's expression was distorted. She was so angry that she wanted to raise her hand and teach Bei Yunj a lesson. This thought flashed through Yunnoa's mind. Soon, she really took a step forward and raised her hand. Suddenly. "Yunnoa, what do you want to do?" The man's deep voice was cold. Instantly, Yunnoa jumped in fright and turned to look at him instinctively. "Chinyu. I was the one who poured water on me first." Yunnoa bit her lip and looked at Chinyu with red eyes. Chinyu had never been fierce to her before. Chinyu pursed his lips and walked to Bei Yunj's side without a word. His voice suddenly became gentle. "Gu, are you all right?" Bei Yunj's eyelids moved and she saw the nervousness in Chinyu's eyes. "I'm fine." "Chinyu. I was bullied. Are you blind?" Yunnoa's usual temper flared up and she shouted angrily. If it was before, no matter how unhappy Chinyu was, he would only ignore her. However, at this moment, she saw Chinyu slowly turn around, his eyes cold and distant. "Stay away from Gu, in the future." Yunnoa's body froze, as if she was filled with coldness. "I'm just teaching her for you. I don't really hate her," she explained immediately. Yunnoa was really afraid that Chinyu would ignore her. "Do I need you to teach me?" Chinyu chuckled carelessly, but his tone was sarcastic. At this moment, Yunnoa completely knew why Mrs. Qin and Qin Yojiao hated Bei Yunj so much. What right did she have to make Chinyu protect her like this? Even if they were biological siblings, they were just strangers who had only met a few times. "Chinyu, didn't you realize that because of her, your relationship with your family is already bad?" Chinyu's arrogant eyes were filled with impatience. "Are you done? If you're done, don't ever appear in front of me again." "Chinyu. How long have we known each other? How many times have you met her?" "Yunnoa, I'll say it again. I don't like you at all. Don't make me say anything more unpleasant. Let's leave some dignity for each other." Chinyu rarely embarrassed the opposite sex in public. Although he looked cold and arrogant, he respected girls very much. But this time, Yunnoa had touched Chinyu's reverse scale. Yunnoa looked at Chinyu. Seeing that he did not care about their relationship at all, she could not help but tear up. She had never suffered such grievances in her entire life. Sister Yunhua, why are you crying? Suddenly, Qin Youjiao and Qing Zihuai came over. Qin Youjiao comforted Yunhua and said softly, second brother won't really ignore you. Sister Yunhua, it'll be fine in a few days. With that said, a dark look flashed past her eyes. She did not expect Qin Yu to return at this time. She did not expect Qin Yu to not even care about Yunhua's face. Suddenly. Chapter 213. Hearing this, Yunhua's face, which was already covered in tears, paled instantly. Qin Youjiao's expression also froze and her hand that was wiping Yunhua's tears froze. A thought appeared in her mind. Was second brother doing this to slap her face? Qin Yu, I was wrong. Can you not be angry? Yunhua regretted it in her heart, but she hated Bei Yunj even more for being doted on by Qin Yu. Even Qin Youjiao back then had never made her feel so unbalanced. However, at this moment, Yunhua was even more afraid that Qin Yu would really refuse to appear on the screen with her. If that happened, their CP fans would definitely drop. They would also definitely sense Qin Yu's cold attitude towards her. You should apologize to my sister, not me. Qin Yu snorted, his tone cold. These words made Yunhua's face turn red and pale. She was the elder young miss of the Yun family after all. Even if it was Qin Youjiao, she couldn't lower her head and apologize, let alone Bei Yunj. Suddenly. There's no need. Bei Yunj said slowly, Miss Yun, you just have to take care of yourself. Yunhua gritted her teeth and looked at Bei Yunj angrily. However, when she felt Qin Yu's cold gaze, her expression changed immediately. It's Sister Yun's fault. Sister Yun will apologize to you. Yunj, can you forgive me? Bei Yunj's beautiful eyes relaxed and she looked bright and arrogant. No, Sister Yun. In an instant. The atmosphere was cold and silent. Yunhua's expression was distorted. If Qin Yu wasn't beside Bei Yunj, Yunhua wanted to rush up and tear Bei Yunj's face apart. Suddenly. Deskmate? A low and casual young man's voice rang out. Bei Yunj turned around and saw Lu Yuanxi wearing a black t-shirt and flip-flops. His hair was messy and fluffy as he appeared in front of her. The boy was tall and handsome. He didn't look sloppy at all. Instead, he looked lazy and cute. Bei Yunj suddenly remembered. Lu Yuanxi, the Lu family. No wonder the teachers in the school treated him like an ancestor. Yuanxi, who are you calling? An old lady with a clear voice appeared in front of everyone. Grandma, this is my desk mate. Lu Yuanxi glanced at old Madame Lu, then raised his chin towards Bei Yunj. Your desk mate? A woman? Old Madame Lu's heart skipped a beat. When she turned around and saw Bei Yunj clearly, she was even more shocked. Wasn't this the girl she had tried to blackmail last time? Didn't she still have a son and a very handsome and young husband? Bei Yunj, who met the old madame's gaze, was speechless. To think that there was such a fate. You're not that. That. Bei Yunj interrupted old Madame Lu with a smile. My name is Bei Yunj. I've met old Madame Lu before. This scene confused Qin Yu and the others. They did not know how the two of them had met. Only Lu Yuanxi rubbed the back of his head and suddenly remembered something. Last month, he had seen his grandma blackmailing a girl on the streets and wanted to introduce her to him. Suddenly, Lu Yuanxi's expression darkened. This old lady had even blackmailed Bei Yunj? Had she gone crazy from missing her granddaughter-in-law? Soon. Old Madame Lu roughly understood what was going on, but she was not angry. Instead, she was full of smiles. Yes, we've met before. The two of us are fated to meet. Chapter 214. Hearing this, everyone felt a little strange. What's wrong, old madam? Are you planning to acknowledge a granddaughter on the spot? Lu Yuanxi sneered slowly. Old Madame Lu almost couldn't maintain her smile. It was too difficult to get a granddaughter-in-law. This foolish grandson was so disappointing. At this moment, Mrs. Chin and the other madams, who did not know what was going on, walked over. When they saw old Madame Lu, a glint flashed past their eyes. She went forward to hold old Madame Lu's hand and said with a smile, "Old Madam, it's your birthday banquet today. Why are you outside in the cold wind? Let's go back to the living room quickly." With that said, Mrs. Chin glanced at Bei Yunj. After frowning slightly, she called out gently, "Jiao Jiao, come and talk to your Grandma Lu." "Okay, then let's go to the living room first." Old Madame Lu smiled. When she saw Qin Yojiao sitting in a wheelchair on the way, she frowned unconsciously. "Jiao Jiao, what happened to your leg?" "It's nothing. I accidentally fell downstairs. Don't worry, I didn't hurt my bones. I'll recover in a week. Then you have to be careful in the future. It's not good to have a scar on a girl's leg." Old Madame Lu nodded and reminded her. In the living room. "Gu, whose daughter are you?" Before Mrs. Chin and old Madame Lu could get close, old Madame Lu looked at Bei Yunj impatiently. It was obvious that she was very interested in Bei Yunj. However, when Mrs. Chin heard this, her expression froze and she glanced coldly at Bei Yunj with disgust. It was as if she was afraid that others would associate her with Bei Yunj. But who knew, me? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows slowly and chuckled slowly. "I live in an orphanage." Old Madame Lu's expression was pitiful. "Oh, your parents are dead." Suddenly, Lu Yuanxi, who was eating spaghetti, covered his mouth and coughed lightly, choking. Everyone was speechless. What kind of suffocating scene was this? At this moment, old Madame Lu was still chatting enthusiastically with Bei Yunj, but she did not notice how terrible Mrs. Chin's expression was. Until Chin Yu returned from the washroom. Mrs. Chin's expression softened slightly and she said to Qin Yojiao with a coy smile, "Jiao Jiao, did your second brother buy this bracelet for you when he went to Country R?" "Yes." A coy expression appeared on Qin Yojiao's face and she could not help but look at Qin Yu again. This bracelet was made purely by hand. There's only one in the world. The lady beside her had a discerning eye. This bracelet is worth at least 20 to 30 million, right? Second young master really dotes on Miss Qin Yojiao. Many people present also noticed Qin Yojiao's last sentence. There was only one in the world. In that case, Qin Yu didn't give it to Bei Yunj and only gave it to Qin Yojiao? Everyone had different thoughts, but they all felt that this little princess who had been doted on by the Qin family for more than 10 years would not fall out of favor so easily. "Yu doesn't come home often, but he's willing to buy things for his sister," Mrs. Qin said with a smile when she realized that she had achieved her goal. Instead of looking at Mrs. Qin Yu turned his head and chuckled. "Gu, why aren't you wearing anything at the banquet?" Bei Yunja's eyebrows moved and she looked at Qin Yu. "You haven't worn what second brother bought for you before." Qin Yu chuckled and took out an exquisite and beautiful necklace from his pocket. Chapter 2:15. Soon. Bei Yunj felt a cool touch in front of her collarbone. After Qin Yu put on the necklace for Bei Yunj, he let go of her hand calmly. Looking at Bei Yunj, his gaze was deep and gentle. "My Gu is very pretty." Suddenly, someone's knife and fork fell on the table, attracting the attention of many people. F***CK, sister, look at that necklace. Is it the Queen of Posebi's necklace? The baby-faced girl shook her sister's hand crazily. "You must have seen wrongly, of course not. I studied jewelry design for nothing. This is definitely the real deal. I remember that there was a big brand that imitated this necklace and produced a custom-made product. It cost 40 million. The baby-faced girl looked excited. Hearing this, the rest of the people were stunned. Queen of Posebi's necklace? He remembered that 10 years ago, the last auction had been sold for more than 98 million. Today, it could only become more and more valuable. Is this very expensive? Bei Yunj furrowed her eyebrows. She remembered that Qin Yu had given the original protagonist this necklace before. However, she did not expect it to be so valuable. It's all right. Qin Yu smirked. The price of this necklace that Qin Yu had bid for was 160 million. After all, this was a real antique and had collectible value. Qin Yu remembered that he was still filming in Our Nation at that time. Because Qin Yojiao kept quarreling and insisted on getting a bracelet from an auction, he also went to bid for it. But because this bracelet was unique, Qin Yu remembered that he had a new sister at home and he wanted to prepare a gift for her. So, he secretly bid for this Queen of Posebi's necklace. After all, this was his first gift for his new sister. At this thought, Qin Yu's gaze on Bei Yunj became gentler. This might be the only thing he had done right in his previous life. When did second brother buy that necklace for Yunj? Qin Yojiao suppressed her emotions, but her eyes were red with jealousy and she felt even more indignant. This should have belonged to her. When Gu returned to the Qin family for the first time, Qin Yu's eyes turned cold calmly and he sneered. Hearing this, not only Qin Yojiao, even Mrs. Qin did not expect Qin Yu to give Bei Yunj such an expensive gift in private. Even for Qin Yojiao, the most expensive thing was the bracelet she was wearing today. In an instant, Qin Yojiao's face paled. She found this hard to believe. Bei Yunj touched the necklace in front of her collarbone, wondering why the original owner of her body didn't sell this thing. At this moment, old Madame Lu tugged at Lu Yuanxi's sleeve and asked curiously, "What's the relationship between Gu, and the Qin family?" "Oh, the second lady on your left is the mother of my desk mate." Lu Yuanxi continued to eat his noodles. "I don't want to." Suddenly, the back of Lu Yuanxi's head suffered a palm strike. Old Madame Lu was angry and annoyed. "You rascal, why didn't you tell me earlier?" This palm almost pressed Lu Yuanxi's head into the ground. "Lu Yuanxi, what did this have to do with her? Don't poke your nose into other people's business." Lu Yuanxi furrowed his eyebrows. His deskmate was a barrel of explosives that could explode at any time. Was he tired of living if he went up to her now? Old Madame Lu despised and hated him. Is this brat's brain all used on gaming? Don't you have any feelings for Gu? Chapter 216. Old Madam, you just woke up too. Lu Yuanxi chuckled and continued to eat his noodles. The corners of old Madame Lu's lips twitched. She suspected that their Lu family might have no descendants because of this little B** starred. If this little girl is abducted, you'll regret it. With that said, old Madame Lu suddenly thought of the man who pretended to be Bei Yunj's husband last time. He was young and handsome and looked equally dignified. There's no hope. Old Madame Lu's eyelids twitched. Compared to that young man, Lu Yuanxi was indeed too different. Soon, Yu Hanran also brought Yu Manran to the living room. However, before Yu Hanran could find a seat and sit beside Bei Yunj, Qin Yu suddenly said gently, "Hanran, I have something to talk to you about." Yu Hanran was perplexed. What was wrong with Qin Yu? Had he already forgotten that they were sworn enemies? Yu Hanran's eyelids twitched, but he still sat beside Qin Yu. He was about to speak. "Are you, at least you know what's good for you." Qin Yu snorted. Yu Hanran was speechless. "I know that my sister is good-looking and outstanding. It's normal for you to be moved. But you should control yourself." Qin Yu smiled and patted Yu Hanran's shoulder gently. "A man can't help himself. This is called committing a crime." Seeing Qin Yu look like he was going to punish him personally at any time, Yu Hanran felt that it was ridiculous. "Stop talking nonsense," Yu Hanran said immediately. Qin Yu asked, "Is my sister not good-looking?" "Yes." "You don't like this kind of face?" "I do." "Then can you control yourself?" "I can control myself." Before Yu Hanran could finish answering, he realized that this question was a trap. No matter how he answered, it would be like he was lusting after his sister. "Qin Yu, are you deliberately finding trouble with me?" Yu Hanran took a deep breath and looked at Qin Yu with a cold smile. Don't think that you can take advantage of me just because I don't have time to take care of Gu. Qin Yu refused to give up. His face was almost filled with, don't even think about it, dream on. However, Yu Hanran was confused. When did he show that he was interested in Bei Yunj? Now, Qin Yu was staring at him like he was a thief. Why do you think that I'm interested in your Gu? Yu Hanran put on a fake smile. If it weren't for the wrong occasion, he would have fought with this dog. You don't need to know. Qin Yu's eyes were arrogant and handsome. His tone was lazy with a faint sneer, but he was secretly sighing in his heart. He did not expect Master Du to treat him so well. Knowing that Yu Hanran was restless, he still remembered to ask Assistant Singh to remind him to be more vigilant. Sure enough, so many years of brotherhood were worth cherishing. Suddenly. Did Huashida tell you? Yu Hanran thought about it. This was the only person who could fan the flames. Why? Are you feeling guilty? Qin Yu glanced at him. Yu Hanran's face twitched. Great, there's actually a thief calling out to stop the thief. Are you stupid? Yu Hanran couldn't help but scold. Yu Hanran, are you itching for a beating? Qin Yu's expression also darkened. Me? Qin Yu, take **King look. Do I look like someone who would steal your little cabbage? Yu Hanran laughed in anger. Qin Yu snorted. Yu Hanran, do you have some misunderstanding about yourself? At this moment. What are you talking about? Bei Yunj asked. Chapter 217. Nothing. Qin Yu and Yu Hanran pretended that nothing had happened. When Yu Manran saw this, he could tell at a glance that Qin Yu and Yu Hanran had a good relationship. Then I'll go back first. I still have something to do. Bei Yunj didn't like to stay in such a place. Then second brother will send you. Qin Yu said instinctively. No need. A chauffeur will pick me up later. In the eyes of outsiders, Bei Yunj's attitude was nothing, but Qin Yu could clearly feel that Gu-er's attitude towards him was still cold. Qin Yu's eyes darkened. Then. Gu-er, go back and rest early. Bei Yunj glanced at him. You too. Then. After greeting old Madame Lu, Bei Yunj turned and left. However, at this moment, Qin Yu's expression was happy. His eyes were dark and bright and the corners of his lips could not help but curl up. Was Gu concerned about him just now? After getting this understanding, Qin Yu decided to work hard so that Gu could accept him as her second brother again. Until he regained his senses. Qin Yu saw Yu Hanran raise an eyebrow and look at him with a gloating gaze. Did Qin Yu's usual intelligence lose all of it when it came to his sister? Eat more. Don't you like to eat cabbage? Qin Yu picked up a few cabbages for Yu Hanran in a friendly manner. Yu Hanran took a deep breath and chuckled soon. He really picked up his wooden chopsticks and ate the cabbage calmly. Your cabbage? King planted your cabbage in someone else's den and you're still afraid of being bitten? Although Yu Hanran was angry, he was still a person who liked to watch a show. He would not tell Qin Yu the truth. Looking at the current situation, he wanted to know if Master Du would take away Qin Yu's cabbage. At this thought, Yu Hanran glanced at Qin Yu gloatingly. He really wanted to know what expression Qin Yu would have if he saw Master Du personally poaching his cabbage. The grading speed of Hengda High School was very fast. The next afternoon, the papers were all distributed. Bei Yunj bit her straw and glanced at her 6 test papers. It was not surprising that she had scored more than 300 points. But she didn't expect Chu Zhixing's science results to be so good. Other than chemistry, where he lost 2 marks for one question, he scored full marks for the rest of the subjects. However, when Bei Yunj caught a glimpse of Chu Zhixing's English and Chinese papers, her eyelids twitched. Her science results were almost full marks, but her liberal arts results were not up to par. Master Pei, your Chinese and English are really good, Chu Zhixing said enviously. Bei Yunj looked at her Chinese and English scores of 70 to 80 points. She couldn't help but twitch her lips. She didn't know how to answer him. Very tall? Let me see. Lu Yuanxi, who had just returned from playing basketball, heard Bei Yunj and Chu Zhixing discussing the results, and his eyes lit up. Language 78 marks, English 87 marks. When Lu Yuanxi saw this, he couldn't suppress the smile on his face. Until he realized that Bei Yunj was looking at him with a faint smile. Lu Yuanxi's smile disappeared and he patted Bei Yunj's shoulder. Don't be discouraged, desk mate. Although your scores aren't high, I can teach you. With that said, Lu Yuanxi turned around with a refreshing smile on his face, only to see the English papers he was proud of lying flat on the table. The bold red 68-foot made Lu Yuanxi's whole body stiffen. However, at this moment, Chu Zhixing spoke. Brother Lu, how many marks did you get in English? Chapter 218. Chu Zhixing guessed with an envious expression. 145? 146? Seeing that Lu Yuanxi did not answer, Chu Zhixing thought that his guess was still too low and his expression became even more impressed. He did not expect Brother Lu to really be a hidden genius. At this moment, Bei Yunj happened to glance to the side and saw the clear 68-foot. Immediately, Lu Yuanxi heard a soft laugh from the side, as if someone could not hold it in. Lu Yuanxi looked at Bei Yunj expressionlessly and gritted his teeth. It must be a mistake. He grew up in our country, how could his score be so low? It was even lower than Bei Yunj's. Brother Lu? Before Chu Zhixing could ask, he was interrupted by Lu Yuanxi. Shut up. At first, Chu Zhixing was confused until he saw the 68-foot on Lu Yuanxi's paper. After a moment of silence, Chu Zhixing quietly put away his 66 paper, afraid that he would agitate Lu Yuanxi. However, at this moment, Bei Yunj showed a rare trace of pity and comforted him. At least the total score is over 100. Lu Yuanxi really wanted to curse. In Class 1. Jiao Jiao, what kind of big boss are you? You're second in the cohort again. The girl could not help but be excited. I'm lucky. Qin Youjiao smiled. It was only when Ling Jiwei walked into Class 1 that her eyes lit up. Jiao Jiao, I heard a teacher praising you in the office just now. You're second again and first in the liberal arts. Ling Jiwei teased, isn't it time to treat us? Every time we take an exam, you all find reasons to exploit me. Qin Youjiao said coquettishly. Who asked Jiao Jiao to be so amazing? At this point, Ling Jiwei suddenly remembered Bei Yunj's results that she had seen in the office just now and a mocking look appeared in her eyes. Unlike someone who can't be helped by mud. Wei Wei, are you talking about that Bei Yunj? Qin Youjiao was also quite popular with girls in class. The girls who often followed Qin Youjiao naturally didn't like Bei Yunj. Especially not long ago, Bei Yunj was ranked first in the Tieba forum for the most beautiful girl in school. Qin Youjiao's total votes were not even 1/5 of Bei Yunj's. Yeah, a total score of more than 300 points, 28th from the bottom of the grade. Ling Jiwei's tone was sarcastic and gloating. With these grades, I don't even know what university you can go to. Hearing this, a dark look flashed past Qin Youjiao's eyes as she heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. Ever since she saw Bei Yunj playing the piano at the Lu family's house yesterday, she had been feeling uneasy. She was afraid that there would be a change in her performance today. Fortunately, Bei Yunj's results were within her expectations. She couldn't be compared to her. She came from that kind of high school. It's normal for her not to adapt at first. Qin Youjiao smiled faintly. What do you mean? She was a bad student in her original high school, let alone in a school like ours. Ling Jiwei was smug. She wanted to see how Bei Yunj would be slapped in the face after finding out about Qin Youjiao's results. At noon, Bei Yunj received a call from Marcus. Yunj, someone wants to buy the licensing rights for our project. Do you know about the Delaney Group? Marcus was extremely excited. Before the patent was officially released, Delaney had already offered a sky-high patent fee. One could imagine how popular Bei Yunja's first project was. Chapter 219. Even the top technology group in our nation wanted to buy out Bei Yunja's project patent, as if they were afraid that she would sell it to someone else. However, Marcus did not expect that before he could be happy for long. Bei Yunj said slowly. "I'm not selling it." Marcus was speechless. "I say, little ancestor, do you know how much Delaney paid for this patent fee?" "A patent fee of 10 figures. Is my patent cabbage?" Bei Yunj smiled faintly. Marcus was speechless. 10 figures. "It's signed for 5 years, Bei Yunj said concisely. In her previous life, Bei Yunja's first project had won the top award in the industry. As a result, the most news about her on the internet was about her sky-high patent fee that was skyrocketing every year. This was really a big boss who dared to suck the blood of capitalists. However, the capitalists had a love-hate relationship with this big boss. At this moment, Marcus calmed down and quickly organized his words. He smiled carefully and said, "But our project isn't completed yet. Delaney is interested in the prospects of our project, but it's hard to say if we can expand the market. Then we can let him wait for my project to finish." With that said, Bei Yunj added slowly, "When the time comes, the fee will be doubled." Marcus's heart skipped a beat. He sucked in a breath of cold air and hurriedly said, Okay. Then I'll talk to Delaney first." "Okay." After Bei Yunj hung up the phone, she returned to class leisurely with her milk tea. However, Bei Yunj did not expect to see Chu Zhixing memorizing words alone. "Have you eaten?" Bei Yunj returned to her seat and asked. Chu Zhixing was caught secretly memorizing words. He looked a little shy and shook his head. Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow and said lazily, "Just nice. I don't want to drink any more." With that said, Chu Zhixing saw the milk tea on the table. "Thank you, Yunj." Chu Zhixing glanced at the girl who was playing with her iPad with her head propped up. He could not help but feel his heart warm. "Why are you suddenly so interested in foreign languages?" Bei Yunj asked casually. "I want to apply for the summer camp at our nation's medical institute. I've always been interested in medicine, but," Chu Zhixing scratched his head. "My language skills are not good. I can't even write an application form." A dark look flashed past Bei Yunja's eyes. She turned her head to look at Chu Zhixing. "Let me see." Chu Zhixing was stunned for a moment. He then took out an application form for the medical institute and a handwritten application description and handed them to Bei Yunj. After reading Chu Zhixing's handwritten instructions, Bei Yunj said, "Actually, you don't have to apply." Chu Zhixing's science results were indeed excellent. He also had a lot of medical knowledge and had a lot of opinions. To be able to reach such a level at his age, he was indeed a good seedling. "No." Chu Zhixing thought that Bei Yunj was planning to open the door for him, so he said nervously, "Why Yunj, forget it. I want to get in through my own efforts. I don't want to be looked down upon." From the medicine last time, Chu Zhixing roughly knew that Bei Yunj should know someone from our nation's research institute. However, there had always been a person in our nation's research institute who had been his idol. He did not want that person to think that he had gotten in through the back door. Who knew, however, Bei Yunja's eyes suddenly curved as she teased slowly, Then who does little Chu want to be looked down upon?" Chapter 220. Chu Zhixing's face flushed red. No one. It's not considered letting you in through the back door." Bei Yunj chuckled. She was planning to talk to Stephen about Chu Zhixing's handwritten application when she was free. As for whether he would accept it or not, it was all up to Stephen. "Thank you very much, Yunj. But this application has a different meaning to me. I want to get his approval personally." Chu Zhixing smiled. Hearing this, Bei Yunj did not say anything. She only turned around and leaned on the table to take a nap. Until class started. Bei Yunj took out a blank piece of paper from the drawer. After pondering for a while, she started to write the entire page. Then, before Chu Zhixing came back with water, she casually put the paper into Chu Zhixing's English textbook and continued to sleep on the table. After school, Bei Yunj had just gotten into the car when she suddenly remembered the parent-teacher conference. Uncle Zhang, let's go to the Huo Corporation. Uncle Zhang nodded with a smile. Okay, Mississippi. Not long after, Bei Yunj sent Huo Shidu another message. Brother, I'll wait for you at the company today. A minute or two later, Bei Yunj received a reply. Okay, I'll get Sing Su to bring you upstairs. Seeing this message, Bei Yunj smiled calmly. Half an hour passed. At the Huo Corporation, Sing Su saw Bei Yunj's figure from afar and immediately went forward to block the sun for Bei Yunj with a folder. Miss Pei, the sun is so strong. You have to bring an umbrella next time. Sing Su smiled. Thank you for your concern, Assistant Seng. After Bei Yunj and Sing Su walked into the company, she smiled brightly. Oh right, is Assistant Sing free next Friday? Sing Su's eyelid twitched and he had a bad feeling. Do you need my help with anything? I wonder if I can trouble Assistant Sing to hold a parent-teacher conference for me next Friday? When Bei Yunj smiled, her eyes were curved and her eyes were clear and harmless. However, when Sing Su heard this, he was scared out of his wits. What kind of joke was this? Holding a parent-teacher meeting for Miss Pei? Wouldn't Master Du bury him alive? That. Why doesn't Miss Pei try asking Master Du? Sing Su smiled fawningly. Master Du dotes on you so much, why would he reject your request? I'm afraid that my brother will be scolded if he goes. Bei Yunj blinked her clear and beautiful eyes and said honestly. Sing Su, so you want me to be scolded? Miss Pei, please spare me. How would I dare to be your guardian? Sing Su wanted to cry but had no tears. Bei Yunj. Then I'll think of another way. Since she had left the Qin family, she certainly wouldn't let the Qin family hold a parent-teacher conference for her. However, she had just taken over this body not long ago, so she did not know many people. Looking for Elder Zhong? Letting an extremely famous researcher sit in her classroom and be scolded did not sound like something a human would do. Looking for you Manran? He would be at the top of the headlines the next day. As for Marcus, who was far away overseas, that was even more unrealistic. Bei Yunj, who was thinking about this problem, unknowingly pushed open the door of the president's office. You're here? A man's deep voice sounded. Yes. Bei Yunj reacted and placed her backpack on the coffee table. Immediately after, she saw a slender and good-looking hand holding a bottle of milk and placing it in front of her. Yun Yun, play by yourself first. I have a meeting to attend later. Chapter 221. Bei Yunj looked at the milk that seemed to have been specially prepared for her and her pretty eyes moved unconsciously. Got it. She reached out to take the milk. Seeing this, the man chuckled softly and only left the office when someone outside reminded him. However, not long after, Bei Yunj pushed her homework aside and took out her iPad to check on the follow-up of her 2 interns' projects. Suddenly, Bei Yunj received several messages from Yu Manran. Qin Yojiao wants to enter the entertainment industry? I heard that she's planning to sign a contract with your second brother's personal studio. Is this woman manipulating public opinion for the sake of convenience in the future? I've already seen the company's marketing accounts clearing her name. Smile, are you there? After reading these messages, Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow slightly. Indeed, she did not expect Qin Yojiao to choose to enter the entertainment industry at this time. According to the original novel's development, Qin Yojiao should have entered the entertainment industry after graduating from university. Then, Bei Yunj moved her fingers lightly and typed a paragraph of text. The new song is pretty good. Practice your high notes well this month. The next new song will be the one that made you famous. At this moment, Yu Manran, who was drinking water backstage, choked and coughed violently as his eyes widened in disbelief. "Sister man, can you not look like a young girl in love? Why are you staring at your phone and smiling foolishly? What if the paparazzi take photos of you?" The manager's eyelids twitched uncontrollably. She really did not expect Yu Manran to be so lucky to meet a benefactor in a bar. This new song made Yu Manran's popularity surpass several popular A-list female celebrities. If the next song could still be so popular, Yu Manran would definitely jump into the ranks of the A-list celebrities this year. "I was chatting with just now. We were talking about a new song." Yu Manran was a little weak. His recent popularity had already made Yu Manran feel that it was unreal. And Bae Yunja's words just now made Yu Manran feel like he was dreaming. The manager was suddenly even more agitated than Yu Manran. "What did she say to you?" Yu Manran's eyelids twitched. He turned to look at her and said, "She told me to practice my high notes properly. My next song will be the one that will make me famous." If someone else had said something like this, she might have thought that the person was bragging. But Bae Yunj was different. That new song had only been released for less than a week, but it had already dominated all the charts in the country. Recently, the popularity of his new songs overseas had also been rising. There were even well-known singers who adapted and covered the song. In this situation, even she felt that this song was enough for Yu Manran to earn a lifetime of dividends. However, Bae Yunj even told Yu Manran that the next song would be Yu Manran's masterpiece. The manager felt goosebumps all over her body. Man, did your ancestors accumulate virtue for 18 lifetimes? How could such a lucky thing happen to her?" Yu Manran said frankly, "I'm starting to think so too." The manager was speechless. However, Yu Manran still couldn't help but worry. Qin Yojiao's motive for entering the entertainment industry was definitely not that simple. What if she was planning to use her identity as an artiste to step on Bae Yunj, in the villa? Qin Yu had just taken a shower when he saw his manager's serious expression. "What's wrong?" He looked up. "Miss Qin signed up for our studio." Chapter 222. What? Qin Yu's handsome eyes were like thick ink as the corners of his lips curled up slightly. Was Qin Yojiao crazy? Miss Qin wants to enter the entertainment industry. Logically speaking, staying with her brother would be more. She would feel more at ease. Before the manager could finish speaking, he felt Qin Yu's cold gaze and shut up instinctively. "My younger sister only has Bae Yunj. Don't forget it." Qin Yu snorted. "Get rid of this person in the first round. If she appears in my studio, then I'll get rid of you. Do you understand?" Hearing this, the manager felt a chill run down his spine and nodded hurriedly. "Brother Yu, don't worry. I won't let her in." At the same time, the manager could not understand why Qin Yu had changed his attitude towards Qin Yojiao. In the past, although Qin Yu did not come home often, it was obvious that he doted on Qin Yojiao. However, what he was sure of now was that the newly returned Miss Pei had completely become the person Qin Yu was most nervous about. At the Hua Corporation, Bae Yunj twirled the pen in her hand and slowly did her homework. Suddenly, the door was pushed open gently and a coquettish voice sounded. "Is Assistant Singh here?" Bae Yunj did not even look up as she said casually, "No." However, hearing the reply, the smile on the female secretary's face froze. It was obvious that she did not expect there to be a woman inside. She had been in the company for almost 3 months and had found out that President Hua was not close to women. Even the staff around him were all men. But what was with this voice in the office? After some thought, the female secretary could not help but push the door open and enter. But what he didn't expect was to see a bright and beautiful girl sitting by the coffee table doing her homework. She was stunned for a moment before she smiled and said, "Are you President Hua's younger sister?" Bae Yunja's pen stopped. She did not expect her to come in. Her red lips curved and she looked even more charming, but her words were ambiguous. "If that's the case, then you can say so." These words made the female secretary's smile freeze. What did this girl mean? Alarm bells rang in the female secretary's heart. Did President Hua agree to miss being here? The female secretary seemed to treat herself as a regular here. At this moment, Bei Yunj didn't answer her question. She just bit her straw and wrote the question slowly. However, seeing that Bei Yunj didn't say anything, the secretary thought that Bei Yunj was guilty. Little girl, are you President Hua's friend's little sister? The female secretary was a little smart. She knew that Bei Yunj wouldn't be able to enter this office building if she didn't have a high status. But, little girl, you probably don't know that President Hua doesn't like women in his office, the female secretary said again. Upon hearing this, Bei Yunj looked up and sized her up. The female secretary was wearing a suit skirt that was cut short to her thighs. Her legs in black stockings were especially sexy. So, shouldn't you go out? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and looked at her calmly. There was no warmth in his eyes, which inexplicably made the female secretary a little flustered. I'm here to look for Assistant Seng. I have some work matters to hand over. On the other hand, isn't it inappropriate for Miss to be doing homework here? Why don't I bring you to the reception room? Chapter 223. Bei Yunj glanced at this troublesome woman and then glanced at the phone screen. They will be back in 3 minutes. Why aren't you leaving? Miss, please come out with me. As an employee, I have to do my best for my boss. The female secretary did not believe that this girl really knew when Master Du would be back. If he really came back in 3 minutes, would she dare to sit here? What if I don't go out? Bei Yunj leaned lazily against the sofa. Her black curly hair was spread out casually, but her eyes were soul-stirring. Even as a woman, she could feel how seductive this girl was. The female secretary gritted her teeth and deliberately scared her. Miss, you don't want me to ask the security guards to ask you to leave, do you? A young lady with such a good family background should be the most afraid of losing face. Miss Secretary, did you misunderstand something? Bei Yunj suddenly smiled. Hearing this, the female secretary could not help but walk towards Bei Yunj. She thought that Bei Yunj was afraid and was about to give in. What did you misunderstand? The female secretary waited for Bei Yunj to explain clearly. Unexpectedly, Bei Yunj suddenly stood up. Bei Yunj leaned close to her ear and said in a clear tone, I'm not your president's sister. I'm his child bride. Hearing this, the female secretary's legs almost went weak. She had heard that many wealthy families groomed outstanding wives for their heirs. But in this era, very few people did so. Then, before the female secretary could retort, the man's light voice suddenly sounded from the door. Yunyun, what are you doing? Huashidu had just pushed open the door when he saw this young lady's eyes crinkling. He did not know what she said to the woman beside her, but that woman's expression changed drastically. This child was making a fuss again. When Bei Yunj saw that Huashidu had returned, she sat back on the sofa and looked at the female secretary again with a smile. The female secretary did not expect Bei Yunj to be telling the truth. President Hua actually came back at this time. She was flustered, especially when she met Huashidu's cold eyes. President Hua, who let you in? The man's tone was still cold and indifferent, but the oppressive feeling around him sent chills down her spine. The secretary's pretty face turned pale, and she subconsciously looked at Bei Yunj who was sitting on the sofa. She gritted her teeth and pointed at Bei Yunj. I'm here to look for Assistant Seng, but I didn't expect to see this lady in your office. That's why I thought of a way to get her to move to another place, to stay. The female secretary's voice became softer and softer. She knew that she must have offended Huashidu this time. She could only make this man soften his heart a little with her red eyes. Is Tsing Su the owner of this office? Are you looking for him here? Huashidu's gaze swept over her indifferently. He walked straight to his desk and pressed a few buttons on the landline. Soon, Tsing Su arrived. Master Du, when Tsing Su saw a pretty female secretary appear in Huashidu's office with red eyes, he immediately realized what was going on. These women really dared to praise him. Before everyone entered the company, they were warned not to enter the president's office. However, every year, there would be people who thought that they were exceptions and could gain Master Du's favor. How stupid! Tsing-su cursed in his heart. He knew that Master Du would blame him again. Chapter 224. Is this the person you've interviewed? The man's pair of lustful eyes were dangerous and deep. Tsing-su quickly lowered his head. Master Du, I didn't take good care of the newbie. Get her out. Hoshida's casual words made Tsing-su wonder if he had heard wrongly. However, when his gaze landed on the person on the sofa, he seemed to have understood something. It turned out that there was a life-saving talisman. Tsing-su took a deep breath and looked at the newbie with an unpleasant expression. Who let you in? The female secretary bit her lip and glanced at Bei Yunj, who was sitting on the sofa. Her face immediately turned red and pale. She felt the difference in status between her and this girl sitting on the sofa. I'm here to look for you, the female secretary cried. When Tsing-su heard that the female secretary still dared to push the matter to him, he suppressed his anger with a fake smile. You came to the president's office to look for me? The female secretary, get out. Tsing-su reprimanded with a dark expression. The female secretary looked at Hoshidu unwillingly. In the end, her gaze landed on Bei Yunj. She did not believe that this girl's words were true. In the next moment, the female secretary left with Tsing-su. What were you talking to someone about just now? After they left, Hoshidu sat on the sofa again and glanced at Bei Yunj's one-page homework. I was helping brother. Bei Yunj's tone was calm, but her eyes were clear and seductive. Hoshidu let out a long laugh. His well-defined hand slowly tugged at his tie lazily and ostentatiously. What did Yunyun help brother with? Brother has a lot of love affairs. Bei Yunj looked at Hoshidu's noble and handsome appearance and her eyes curved. If I cut them off, will brother's heart ache? The man's magnetic voice was low and flirtatious. He pinched Bei Yunj's face casually. How would I dare, little kid? There was a hint of indulgence in his casual flirtatious tone. The only thing Bei Yunj could see was the mole on the tip of her throat. She was emboldened. Brother, come closer. Let's discuss something. What is it? Hoshida's eyes were faint, but the corners of his upturned eyes were charming. When he lowered his eyes, his posture was so intimate and sexy that it made people blush. In fact, on the way, Tsing-su told him about the little guy's parent-teacher conference. However, at this moment, Hoshidu looked at Bei Yunj in front of him thoughtfully, as if he was thinking about something. Brother. Seeing this, Hoshidu raised his eyebrows. He did not expect Bei Yunj to be so hesitant because of the parent-teacher conference. However, Hoshidu soon realized that this young lady was clearly so bold that she was not afraid of the consequences. Suddenly, her fair and slender hand directly touched the mole on the man's Adam's apple. Hoshidu's gaze quickly turned dark and aggressive. He immediately grabbed that lawless hand. Bei Yunj saw the mole move along with the man's sexy Adam's apple. It made her heart tremble. Then, she looked up and sensed a dangerous emotion in the man's eyes. It was almost indiscernible. Bei Yunj, she had gone overboard. The man licked his thin red lips, his gaze fixed on her. His low and hoarse laughter tickled her eardrums. It was so sexy and made her heart itch. The darkness in his eyes made her legs go weak. Child, why are you being a hooligan? Chapter 225. Bei Yunj's brain froze. She could not calm down when she saw this scene. The man looked at her angrily and amusedly. He did not know where this young lady got the courage to touch his Adam's apple. After sorting out his emotions, Hoshidu leaned closer and rubbed his fingers against her face intimately. His low and magnetic voice was ambiguous and ostentatious. Do you want to see how bad I am? The light in the man's eyes was hidden. His evil and lustful demeanor made one's heart tremble. As soon as he finished speaking, the female secretary, who had pretended to come back to get something and was still unwilling to give up, happened to see this scene clearly. Her pupils constricted. President Hua, at this moment, Tsing Su arrived very quickly. Huashidu had just turned to look when he heard him reprimand her. "You Qianya, since you're restless in the headquarters, transfer to another post now." Tsing Su's expression was ugly. He did not expect this woman to be so stupid and scheming. Suddenly, Huashidu, who had not cared much about this matter, spoke. "There's no need to transfer." When the female secretary heard this, she was overjoyed. She thought that Huashidu was starting to take pity on her. However, in the next moment, the man's tone was indifferent and still unreasonable. The Hua Corporation doesn't need such an employee. In an instant, the female secretary's face turned pale. She did not expect to end up in an even worse state. "President Hua, I am just here to look for something." The female secretary was incoherent and felt cold all over. She did not expect Huashidu to fire her directly. "Tsing Su, are you taking the company's year-end bonus to retire in the company?" The man sneered. "Tsing Su. Master Du, I was wrong. I'll deduct this year's year-end bonus. If there are any employees who don't abide by the dress code next time, they will all be fired." Huashidu's heartless words made Tsing Su's scalp tingle. "Yes, Master Du, please continue with your work. I'll handle the rest." After speaking, Tsing Su glanced at the female secretary bitterly. He was prepared to transfer this group of slightly good-looking people who wanted to seduce the president. He wanted to prevent all actions that would harm his year-end bonus next year. After Tsing Su sent them away, Bai Yunj watched as Huashidu walked to his desk and prepared to work. She could not help but ask, "Brother, are you angry?" Hearing this, Huashidu glanced at her slowly and did not say anything, so that she wouldn't dare to touch anyone's Adam's apple in the future. "Brother?" At some point, Bai Yunj had dragged a chair and sat across from him. She rested her chin on her hand and smiled as she watched Huashidu review the documents. Bai Yunj leaned on the desk again and said with a smile, "Brother, but I don't have an Adam's apple for you to touch." The man's strokes were smooth and flowing. Suddenly, Bai Yunja's red lips curled up again. There seemed to be light in her eyes and her clear voice sounded like it could melt one's bones. "Brother Shidu," the elegant and noble man's upturned eyes narrowed, but the ink in his hand was dizzy and almost fell. He slowly raised his eyes and looked at the little girl who was about to turn into a spirit. He couldn't do anything to her and laughed softly. Huashidu reached out with his slender hand and gently tapped her smooth forehead with the pen cap. His seductive and magnetic voice was filled with a smile as he casually imitated her tone. "Don't be coy. Brother Shidu can't take it." This seductive look was simply too alluring. Even Bai Yunja's heart beat faster when she saw this scene. She suddenly stood up, turned around, and walked to the coffee table to do her homework. Chapter 226. Seeing that the girl did not even raise her head, Huashidu smiled silently and continued to read the documents in his hand. The next day, Chu Zhixing held the handwritten translation document in his hand and took a long time to confirm that this was the translation of his application instructions. In the entire class, only Bai Yunj knew that he was going to write this. However, what made Chu Zhixing incredulous was that this time, he had written a lot of medical terms in the instructions seriously. Bai Yunj was actually able to complete this instruction in school. It did not seem to have taken much time. Chu Zhixing suppressed the surging emotions in his heart and thought of Bai Yunja's foreign language marks. With such a level of translation, how could it only be 87 marks, instantly? Chu Zhixing felt that he seemed to have unknowingly found out something incredible again. They were still in math class. The teacher slammed the podium and woke up the students who were sleeping. "Why aren't you listening to the test paper this time? You're at the bottom again, your class is at the bottom again. It's 10 marks lower than the average score of class 6. The math teacher was furious and pointed at the fill-in-the-blank question on the paper. The marking teacher said that only one person in the entire grade got the third question of the fill-in-the-blank question right. Don't you know the difference? Suddenly, Lu Yuanci said faintly, it's luck. Luck? Then why didn't such a good thing happen to you? The math teacher hated the students in this class the most. They thought that they had a good family background and did not need to study seriously. Each one was more useless than the other. It didn't happen to me, but it didn't happen to my desk mate. Lu Yuanci glanced at Bei Yunj, who only got the 3 fill-in-the-blank questions right, and his gaze became even more distant. He scored 28 marks in math, and Bei Yunj scored 30 marks. This fill-in-the-blank question was worth 2 marks each. The math teacher was speechless. The other students could not hold back their laughter. No way, right? No one in class 1 and class 2 got it right, but someone in our class got it right? The boy's tone was exaggerated. Aya, sometimes, luck can really cause a gap. This chorus almost made the math teacher's face turn green. In the back row, Lu Yuanci whispered, this might not be luck. If one were to take a closer look at Bei Yunj's test papers, one would realize that Bei Yunj's test papers only had 8 correct answers and 2 correct fill-in-the-blank questions. The scribbles at the back were all wrong. Only the chemistry teacher was soft-hearted and gave Bei Yunj 2 points for her hard work. So what if you got this question right? Can someone from your class get full marks for the college entrance examination? The math teacher slammed the table. Subsequently, amidst the silence, Chu Zhixing muttered again for some reason, it's not impossible. Everyone, ever since Chu Zhixing started hanging out with Bei Yunj, not only did he dare to scold his classmates, he even dared to scold his teachers now. Bei Yunj was really something. However, everyone thought about it and realized that Chu Zhixing wasn't wrong. Chu Zhixing only lost 2 marks on his math paper. Bei Yunj was the only one who scored on the 3rd question. Thinking about it, this was the only question Chu Zhixing didn't answer correctly. The math teacher's face darkened. Chu Zhixing, don't, suddenly. Bei Yunj suddenly curled her lips and clapped. Her voice was lazy. Well said. After that, Lu Yuanci also clapped very respectfully. Even the classroom was filled with applause. Those who didn't know better would think that they were carrying out some mysterious and grand ceremony. Chapter 227. Seeing this situation, the mathematics teacher swallowed the words that he was about to say to Chu Zhixing. Immediately, he looked at Bei Yunj with an ashen face and said in a cold voice, Bei Yunj, don't think that. Thank you for teaching me well. Otherwise, how could little Chu be so courageous? This applause is for you. Please keep up the good work. Bei Yunj's appearance was languid, but her clear eyes only made people feel that she was sincere. The mathematics teacher was about to scold her when he forcefully swallowed back his words. His face turned green and red. In the end, he could only take a deep breath and say, continue the lesson. Seeing this scene, many students looked at Bei Yunj with admiration. A refined person was really different. However, Lu Yuanci glanced at Bei Yunj. How could he not know that she was trying to protect Chu Zhixing? The mathematics teacher had a bad temper and liked to taunt his students. It was said that the last batch of students he taught almost committed suicide because of this. After school, Bei Yunj received a phone call. Unexpectedly, the person who called her was the director of Yunqing Hospital. Miss Pei, there's something I have to tell you. Your family has invited Dr. Fong Gushing to come over for treatment. Do you know about this? The director asked carefully. He did not forget that Zhong Xinglin had said that his security system, which had been modified by Bei Yunj, was worth more than 10 million yuan. He should indeed tell Bei Yunj about this. What? The light in Bei Yunj's eyes suddenly turned cold. Didn't they say that that person did not leave the city at will? That was why Mother Qin had persuaded old Master Qin to go to the neighboring city for the surgery. It seems that your mother gave him an expensive consultation fee, so Dr. Fong made an exception and came here. The director paused and said, however, you don't have to worry too much. Dr. Fong is indeed an expert in this field. When did he go over? The director said, yesterday. The surgery was scheduled for tomorrow. Bei Yunja's eyes flashed coldly, and his indolent tone also turned cold. Dean, can I trouble you with something? Miss Pei, please speak your mind. Naturally, the hospital director did not want to offend someone like Bei Yunj. To have such achievements at such a young age. If he were to grow up in the future, he would definitely amaze everyone. Don't let Dr. Fong perform the surgery. Bei Yunja's tone was neither fast nor slow. However, when the director heard this, he almost couldn't react. Miss Pei, he is one of the top experts in the country. The hospital director could not figure out what Bei Yunj was thinking. Since Bei Yunj had dealt with the anti-fan personally for Old Master Qin's sake, she was definitely not someone who did not care about Old Master Qin's life. I know, but my father's life is too precious. I can't accept any accidents. Bei Yunj smiled, but there was no warmth in her eyes. Tomorrow, the doctor I arranged will contact you and prepare for the old man's operation. It took a while for the president to react. Okay. I will listen to Miss Pei. After hanging up the phone, the hospital director was in a daze for a long time. He could not understand why everyone in the Qin family thought that Bei Yunj was ignorant and incompetent. However, what made him even more emotional was that Old Master Qin, who had dominated the business world for so many years, was actually willing to put his life in the hands of a young girl. Chapter 228. After that, Bei Yunj called Old Master Qin again and told him not to accept other surgeries. Old Master Qin, who loved his grandson as much as his life, naturally agreed without hesitation. In the evening, after Stephen saw Bei Yunj's message, he called. Yunj? What happened? Someone found a doctor for my grandfather. The moment Bei Yunj said this, Stephen's temper rose uncontrollably. He chuckled in disbelief. In this day and age, there's actually someone who dares to snatch patients from me? I might need you to talk to the director of the hospital tomorrow so that they'll be more assured. Stephen replied, no problem. I'll get my assistant to contact that hospital then. Oh right. Don't worry, Yunj. I'll be able to go to Yunqing this Saturday. So soon? Bei Yunj was a little surprised. There happens to be an academic lecture. The higher-ups want me to come into contact with the new talents in your country. Stephen was smug. Wasn't it just a medical dispute with some stinky money? Did he really think he could do anything to him? At the mention of this, Bei Yunja's lips suddenly curled up. Okay, then I'll see you on Saturday. After hanging up the call, Stephen was elated and was already typing a message, planning to provoke Marcus. He asked him to sign Bei Yunj and he kept showing off. In the end, he was still the first to see Bei Yunj. At this moment, Marcus, who was sleeping in, had no idea that he had already fallen into a situation where there was a wolf in front and a tiger behind him. In the hospital. Early in the morning, Mrs. Qin stood at the door of the ward with a livid expression. Beside her, Qin Yojiao was holding her arm. Mom, don't be angry. The director didn't want to arrange it this way. Qin Yojiao's words seemed to be smoothing things over for the director, but in fact, she was directing the anger at Bei Yunj. Even the director could not help but glance at Qin Yojiao meaningfully. Mrs. Qin, don't be agitated. Miss Pei has her reasons for making such an arrangement, the director said. Mrs. Qin laughed coldly. What reason can she have? She wants the Qin family to be in chaos so that she can be happy. Mrs. Qin, even if you don't like your daughter, you shouldn't say that. The school head disagreed. Mother Qin knew that the director of Yun City Hospital was highly respected. Then, she said to him, back then, my father-in-law made a will. If he passed away, most of the benefits in the family would be given to her. Director, how could a naive girl have so many ideas to go against her parents? These words were very obscure. However, the dean could also tell that Bai Yunj wanted to kill old Master Qin for the inheritance. Mrs. Qin, although you're Miss Pei's biological mother, she still has the right to sue you for slander. The head of the hospital's expression turned cold, and this tough attitude stunned Mrs. Qin and Qin Yojiao. Bai Yunj had only met the director a few times. Why was even the director blindly helping her? Director, that's not what my mother meant. I hope you can understand that my mother is concerned about my grandfather's feelings. Qin Yojiao's eyes were helpless. After all, Yunja's actions are indeed very unacceptable. Dr. Fong is already one of the top experts in the country. I don't know why she insisted on finding a doctor herself. The director was also an understanding person. After hearing this, he could not help sneering in his heart. They were both daughters, but one was doted on, while the other was a true genius that no one had discovered. Chapter 229. How far did the Qin family want to go? They left their treasures at home and even hugged a rock and said it was beautiful. The dean's impression of this family was getting worse and worse. He said coldly, "Have you ever thought that maybe Miss Pei doesn't care about the Qin family's assets at all? With Bai Yunja's ability, if she really wanted to take over the Qin family, she didn't have to hurt old Master Qin at all. After all, this was someone Zhong Xinglin wanted to get to know." But, before Mrs. Qin could finish speaking, the dean interrupted her. "Old Master Qin has already agreed to this and signed a written agreement. Even if Dr. Fong arrives, I can't let him perform the surgery." After that, the dean left without even looking at him. This scene made Mrs. Qin's face turn red and livid. "Mom, don't be angry. You were too impulsive last time and made such a statement. Everyone will be biased towards her," Qin Yojiao said softly. Mrs. Qin lost control of her emotions and her eyes were frighteningly red. "Back then, I shouldn't have agreed to let them look for Bai Yunj." Hearing this, a dark glint flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes and she didn't say anything. Suddenly, "Student Qin?" Qin Yojiao and Mrs. Qin turned around and saw Fong Gishing's dark expression. "Haven't you arranged it yet?" "Mrs. Qin, although I came to Yunsheng because of student Qin, I'm very busy." Hearing this, Mrs. Qin hated Bai Yunj even more, but she could only explain anxiously, Dr. Fong, I'm sorry. My mother had already discussed this with the dean, but because someone else in the family recommended it, another doctor also wants to treat my grandfather." Hearing this, Fong Gishing felt that it was ridiculous. He sneered with a cold expression. "Even I have a 30% to 40% chance of failure for this kind of surgery. Other doctors? I'd like to see who's so confident." Qin Yojiao pretended to hesitate. "That doctor doesn't seem to be here yet, preposterous." His expression was livid as he went upstairs. "I want to know who is so extravagant." Fong Gishing was one of the top specialists in the country. In the past few years, he had indeed never encountered such treatment. Now, a person who hadn't even shown up was able to snatch away his patient. Was he treating him like a young doctor who had just made his debut? At this moment, could something have happened? Mrs. Qin frowned. Qin Yojiao laughed as a strange glint flashed past her eyes. "Mom, it's not easy for you to pressure the head of the hospital, but Dr. Fong is not someone to be trifled with in their circle. It would be best to let Fong Gishing suppress the doctor hired by Bai Yunj. When the time comes." After the surgery, old Master Qin still remembered her good points. The office. Not too long after Principal Zhang returned, he brewed a cup of chrysanthemum tea to cool down. However, when he turned around and saw the email on the computer, he was stunned. Wait a minute. Who sent this email? The dean almost doubted if he had seen wrongly. Meanwhile, the office door was suddenly pushed open, and even the sound was mixed with anger. The director jumped in fright and turned to see Fong Gishing's furious face. "Dr. Fong, I've heard a lot about you. Is it the rule of a private hospital that you don't have to knock?" Suppressing his anger, the director smiled insincerely. Chapter 230. Explanation? What explanation? The hospital director drank his chrysanthemum tea expressionlessly. Old Mr. Chin is my patient. If your hospital doesn't let me treat him, do you not take human life seriously? Fang Gishing's tone was mocking. The hospital director smiled. Of course not. It's just that old Mr. Chin signed an agreement. This operation can only be carried out if his granddaughter, Bei Yunj, agrees. Isn't Qin Yojiao his granddaughter too? How would I know? Maybe the old man thinks Miss Pei is more sensible. With that said, the hospital director poured a cup of chrysanthemum tea slowly. Dr. Fang, have a cup of tea to cool down. Fang Gishing laughed coldly. Director, I don't want to beat around the bush with you either. Since I'm in Yuncheng, I have to be responsible for this patient. From what I know, Miss Pei is not even 20 years old and was cut off the moment she returned home. I really can't trust such a person's social relationships. Fang Gishing had only been told by Qin Yojiao that Bei Yunj used to live in an orphanage and cut off her relationship with Mrs. Qin when she came back. He knew nothing else. Dr. Fang, is this the only solution? The hospital director's gaze turned cold. At this moment, Fang Gishing seemed to have suddenly remembered something and said with a smile, how about this? I'll give the hospital director some face. Since Miss Pei is confident that the doctor she hired is better than me, you have to let me know who it is. Hearing this, the hospital director fell into deep thought. He could not figure out who Bei Yunj could get to treat him. Why? Are you unwilling? As the living Buddha in the patient's mouth, you won't fool around with a little girl, right? The hospital director took a deep breath and glanced at Fang Gisheng, who was determined to bite the bullet. In the end, he could only agree. At the same time, the phone in the hospital director's office rang. Hello, Director Hu? I'm Miss Bei Yunj's attending physician assistant. Is it convenient for you to answer a video call? Oh, sure. The hospital director was a little dazed. He did not expect this mysterious doctor to come looking for him. But at the same time, he was a little nervous. He did not know who the Dr. Bei Yunj would be. After all, logically speaking, Fang Gishing was indeed the most suitable person to operate on old Master Qin. Miss Pei's attending physician requests a video call. Dr. Fang, do you want to come with us? The director asked. Frowning, Fang Gishing could only acquiesce. Video conference? He wondered what this person was up to. Did he know whose patient he had accidentally stumbled upon? Fang Gishing had a mocking expression on his face. He had already thought of how to mock this person. A short while later. It wasn't until the director turned on the projector used for video conferences that the two of them looked up and suddenly saw a figure eating instant noodles. The one who spoke was a very young voice. Hello? Dean Hu, can you see me? The corner of the dean's mouth twitched. Beside him, Fang Gishing sneered. Where did this random doctor come from? She was having a meeting while eating instant noodles? Why don't you finish your noodles first before we talk? The dean asked. I didn't eat noodles. After the assistant finished speaking, he turned his head and asked, who's eating noodles in the institute? Meanwhile, Stephen, who was eating instant noodles, shuddered. He slowly raised his head and saw the camera aimed at him. Stephen cursed. Bastard, who are you pointing the camera at? Stephen picked up his book, pressed down on the lid of the instant noodles, and got up to slap her. Chapter 231. When he saw Stephen's twisted expression, the hospital director knew that this conversation would not go on for the time being. Fang Gishing couldn't help but sneer. Is this the medical team Miss Pei found? Could it be that Miss Pei spent some money casually and found some random team overseas? The hospital director frowned when he heard these harsh words. However, before he could retort, the hospital director suddenly felt that the person eating the instant noodles looked familiar. He seemed to have seen him somewhere before. Have I seen him somewhere before? The hospital director muttered to himself. Fang Gishing couldn't help but laugh out loud. He felt that the hospital director was saving Bei Yunj some face. Hospital director, you're a reputable person in the country. How could you know this group of people from a medical institution who might not have broken the law? The hospital director frowned when he heard this. Dr. Fang, don't be so rude. Then, just as Fang Gishing was about to continue speaking, the person on the other end of the screen returned. He wiped the soup off his beard and placed the instant noodles under the desk without batting an eyelid. The hospital director was speechless. He had already seen everything clearly. Was there a need to hide it? Hello, I'm Stephen, the director of Country R's Medical Research Institute. I sent you an email this morning, but you didn't reply. That's why I'm anxious. As soon as he finished speaking, Fang Gisheng, who had been mocking him, froze. The hospital director jerked his head up and stared at Stephen's face. Our Country R's Medical Research Institute? Mr. Stephen? The hospital director's eyes widened. He finally realized where he had seen this person before. Wasn't this the person who had stood on the stage to speak at the academic exchange conference? Bei Yunj had actually managed to invite Mr. Stephen. This immortal status in the medical industry was worlds apart from Fang Gisheng's. The hospital director thought of the email just now. At first, he had wondered if it was a scam and hadn't dared to think in that direction. However, Mr. Stephen was actually the attending Dr. Bei Yunj had invited. Fang Gisheng, who was standing beside him, obviously recognized the famous person in front of him. His face was pale and he stood there silently, as if he was part of the background. May I ask how Miss Bei Yunj managed to invite you? The principal couldn't help but ask. Isn't this network too wide? Even the big shots from overseas were not spared. It's mainly because my old friends introduced me. Stephen was obviously very happy at the mention of Bei Yunj. The joy on her face made the director of the hospital inexplicably suspicious. It was as if Bei Yunj was the important connection they wanted. This situation simply made the dean feel extremely complicated. A short while later, the director slowly turned his head and looked at Fang Gisheng expressionlessly. Why aren't you saying anything? He couldn't help but feel a little nervous facing a big shot alone. However, Fang Gisheng's face instantly turned green and red. You are? Stephen looked at him. Fang Gisheng said stiffly, my name is Fang Gisheng. I was Elder Qin's attending physician in the beginning. Listen to Yen. Suddenly, Stephen understood. He smiled amiably. I see. Actually, this surgery isn't too difficult. I'm fully confident that I can do it well. If Dr. Fang can do it, I can talk to Miss Pei. Hearing this, Fang Gisheng's legs almost gave out. He didn't have the guts to make such a guarantee. Chapter 232. Mr. Stephen, I'm just here to confirm it. But since it's you, there's naturally no problem. Hearing Fang Gisheng's 180-degree change in attitude, the director's eyelids twitched uncontrollably. Even if he eats instant noodles during meetings, it can't stop his professionalism. Dr. Fang, don't you think so? The director asked with a smile in his native language. Fang Gisheng's expression was terrible and he could not say a word. His mind was in a mess. He never thought that the person Bei Yunj found would be Mr. Stephen. Weren't Qin Yojiao and Mrs. Qin playing with him? Stephen's ability could be said to be the ceiling of this professional field. In the end, this mother and daughter pair still dared to come to him for treatment. Did they want to see him embarrass himself on purpose? At the door of the ward, Bei Yunj saw Mrs. Qin and Qin Yojiao sitting together, looking like a warm mother and daughter pair. But very quickly, her eyes glanced over lazily and she walked towards the ward with a basket of fruits. Bei Yunj. Mrs. Qin stared at her with a cold expression. Mrs. Qin, I'm not in the mood to listen to you. Bei Yunj turned around carelessly and glanced at her with a faint smile. Then, before Mrs. Qin could say anything, Bei Yunj pushed the door open and entered. Mrs. Qin was stunned and gritted her teeth even more. Mom, Dr. Fang is back. Qin Yojiao pulled Mrs. Qin and reminded her softly. Hearing this, Mrs. Qin immediately changed her attitude and looked at Fang Gushing gently. Dr. Fang, have you talked to the director? I'm sorry to trouble you to have to settle such a small matter. After this operation is fine, who knew? Fang Gushing interrupted her and sneered. Mrs. Qin, you really think highly of me. These words made Mrs. Qin unable to react. Why did she feel that Fang Gushing's attitude towards them seemed to have become colder? What do you mean, Dr. Fang? Miss Pei has already found an attending doctor. Why do you have to worry so much? With that said, Fang Gushing suppressed the urge to scold Mrs. Qin on the spot and knocked on the door of the ward before entering. Only Mrs. Qin and Qin Yojiao were left standing at the door with ugly expressions. In the ward. Miss Pei? Fang Gushing took a deep breath and respectfully said. Listen to Yen. Bei Yunj glanced at Fang Gushing and asked casually, Who are you? Nice to meet you. I'm Fang Gushing. Fang Gushing didn't mind Bei Yunj's lukewarm attitude at all, but old Master Qin, who was next to him, had a strange expression on his face. Last time, he had also heard Mother Qin's call to Fang Gushing. This person was extremely arrogant and had a bad attitude. But now, Fang Gushing's tone when he spoke to Bei Yunj seemed to be carefully trying to please her. This wasn't an illusion, right? Why are you looking for me? Bei Yunj was not interested in Fang Gushing and did not even bat an eyelid. This is my name card. If you need anything in the future, you can contact me. Fang Gushing put his business card in front of Bei Yunj and added, I can also come to Yunqing without charging you extra. Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow and glanced at him. Okay, thank you for your hard work, Dr. Fang. Seeing that Bei Yunj did not hold a grudge against him, Fang Gushing heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, Miss Pei, you must be joking. It's my honor. Chapter 233. Even after Fang Gushing left, old Master Qin was still staring at Bei Yunj in a daze. He felt that this granddaughter of his was a little unfamiliar. In the past, Gu was introverted and did not have many friends. However, the current Gu had a strong youthful aura and always gave off a high-spirited feeling. If it wasn't for this face, he would have suspected that the person in front of him was Gu. Qin Yojiao, who was outside the door, stopped Fang Gushing, wanting to know what had happened. However, Fang Gushing only left with a cold expression and did not say anything to her. Did Bei Yunj say something to Dr. Fang? Mrs. Qin clenched her fists and the first person she thought of was Bei Yunj. Mom, don't be anxious about this. Since she wants the doctor she knows to operate on Grandpa so much, let's wait and see. A dark look flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes and she clenched her fists tightly. Jiao Jiao, I've wronged you. Mrs. Qin took Qin Yojiao's hand. Initially, Jiao Jiao had already found a doctor. She didn't know why Bei Yunj was so stubborn and insisted on finding another doctor herself. Mom, I don't care about this. I believe Yunj is doing this for Grandpa's own good. Qin Yojiao lowered her head and forced a smile. It's just that a few days ago, I submitted some documents to second brother's office and was eliminated in the first round. Second brother seems to have really changed. With Qin Yojiao's appearance and popularity, it was impossible for her to be eliminated in the first round. Upon hearing this, Mrs. Qin's temper flared. All of them are really rebelling. If it wasn't for old Master Qin inside, she wanted to question Bei Yunj now. What kind of magic potion did she give Qin Yu and Qin Lang? These two people were willing to sever ties with their family to protect her. Jiao Jiao, don't worry. They will still find out how good you are in the end. Mrs. Qin caressed her head lovingly. Qin Yojiao hugged Mrs. Qin. Mom, I only have you now. Silly child. At noon, Bei Yunj returned to school and cancelled her morning break. When she walked in from the classroom, she heard several girls discussing some emotional topics. Bei Yunj could only hear the boys' Adam's apple. Inexplicably, Bei Yunj suddenly thought of the situation last time. When class was about to start, Lu Yuanci came back with a basketball. Deskmate, Bei Yunj suddenly said. Lu Yuanci's eyes were somewhat guarded. What's wrong? If a guy's Adam's apple is touched, will he be very angry? It was also the first time Bei Yunj saw Huashidu's gaze. Hearing this, Lu Yuanci slowly relaxed, then sat on the chair and chuckled. How could I? What's there to be angry about? Lu Yuanci asked. Then why? Was he angry? Before Bei Yunj could finish her question, she felt Lu Yuanci's gaze on her. You touched someone else's Adam's apple? Lu Yuanci asked. Bei Yunj just looked at him without saying anything. Seeing this, Lu Yuanci denied himself and laughed. No, why did you touch someone else's Adam's apple for no reason? Bei Yunj was silent for a moment before she asked, will it be very serious? Lu Yuanci looked at her strangely and snorted lazily. Not really. It's just that it's easy for something to happen. What happened? Seeing that Bei Yunj was very concerned about this question, Lu Yuanci thought for a moment and changed his wording. You will want to have a new life with the person who touches your Adam's apple. Chapter 234. Bei Yunj froze. Lu Yuanci warned, don't do anything rash. Men are bad in this aspect. Most men might not reject such a thing even if they didn't like it. Suddenly, Bei Yunj seemed to understand why Huashidu's voice was a little hoarse at that time. Lu Yuanci said, Deskmate, your homework. Bei Yunj pushed the homework to him and turned around to calm himself down. Lu Yuanci was speechless. As expected of his deskmate, he was very cold. After school, Bei Yunj went to the A.M. Institute first. Just as Bei Yunj was teaching his two interns, a middle-aged man in a suit barged in. Is Miss Pei here? Bei Yunj raised his eyebrows and saw that his eyes were calm. After glancing at the two interns, he walked straight to the camera. I'm Delaney. Miss Pei should have some impression of me, right? The contract we discussed last time. At this moment, the door was pushed open again and Marcus's voice sounded. Delaney. He had finally stabilized Bei Yunj, but Delaney was looking for trouble at this time. Delaney, I'm warning you, don't anger me. Marcus also walked in front of Delaney, his face livid. Seeing this, Delaney was a little surprised. He had heard that Marcus treated the new member as a treasure, but he did not expect it to be to this extent. It looks like Bei Yunj is really important to our nation's computing institute. Delaney smiled and his gaze landed on the screen where Bei Yunj's face could not be seen. Miss Pei, can't you show your true face and talk? As soon as he finished speaking, Tich and Jasmine, who had been following Bei Yunj in class, held their breaths. They also wanted to know what their teacher looked like. There's nothing wrong with that. Bei Yunj's tone was lazy. Then, the camera panned and everyone saw Bei Yunj's eyes clearly. The girl had black hair and red lips. Her gaze was cold and her eyes were flirtatious with a faint smile. However, when she raised her eyebrows, she had a rebellious youthful vibe. She was unbelievably young and beautiful. Teacher, the two interns beside him were shocked. Their teacher was actually so young. He was too good-looking. If you want to sign the right to use it, look for Marcus to draw up a contract. Bei Yunj said indifferently. Are you Miss Pei? Delaney found it hard to believe that someone who could create such a project would be so young. He had seen many young geniuses, but he had never seen someone like Bei Yunj, who was aiming for the Busaka Prize at such a young age. Is there anything else? Bei Yunj looked up. When these words fell into the ears of the two interns, they automatically thought of Bei Yunj's daily sentence. Do you have any more questions? This kind of precise control, impatient and threatening tone simply reminded them of the nightmares they had in class. Miss Pei, this should be your first time signing a contract, right? With such a price, very few people are willing to cooperate, Delaney said. Bei Yunj chuckled. After all, there aren't that many smart people. Delaney was speechless. He seemed to have been mocked. Miss Pei, if I don't do this project, who would dare to do it? Marcus and the two interns beside him felt their scalps go numb when they heard that Delaney dared to threaten Bei Yunj directly. Delaney, is there a lack of people in your circle who gamble with their lives? Bei Yunj teased. At the same time, Delaney subconsciously raised his head and froze. You. Chapter 235. Delaney clenched his fists and stared at Bei Yunj's face. Was this really a young lady in her 20s? Why was she more intelligent than those old researchers? It's up to you whether you want this contract or not. I've also said that after the project is completed, any company that wants the right to use it will have to pay double the fee. Bei Yunj was neither cold nor warm. Delaney was speechless. Forget about doing research. She would be a rare talent if she went back to the company with him. I'll sign it. Delaney gritted his teeth and only said these two words. As for the others, they quickly turned to look at the livid Delaney. He was going to sign it so soon. Didn't he still think that it was too expensive and that a dignified CEO was acting shamelessly? Yes, close the door. I have to go to class. Bei Yunj nodded without any psychological burden. Delaney, who wanted to curse, was speechless. In the end, Delaney still left weakly. Marcus, who was at the side, could not bear it and patted his shoulder to comfort him. There will be many opportunities to work together in the future. Delaney, who was stabbed in the back, almost had a distorted expression. Then Titch said carefully, "Teacher. What's wrong?" Bei Yunj flipped through the information and frowned. Why did he take so long to explain such a small amount of content? That Delaney just now is my father. Titch braced himself and admitted. Bei Yunj paused and looked up at him. You want to go home with him? Titch shook his head frantically. No, no, no. Teacher, I wanted to come to the research institute myself. I was afraid that you would feel pressured. Titch's voice became softer and softer. What if the teacher thought that he was here to be a spy? Bei Yunj did not even raise his head. Pressure? Write fewer strange reports and hand them to me. I'll feel less pressure. Titch was speechless. Jasmine was speechless. Sorry, it was their fault. All right, let's continue with class. She glanced at them with a deep gaze. Bei Yunj felt that he was still too young and had not suffered the hardships of society. He actually agreed to Marcus's request to teach an intern and Marcus's little niece. At night, Bei Yunj came back late and did not see the man. Normally, Bei Yunj would have asked Auntie Meow first. But now, when Bei Yunj thought about touching his Adam's apple, she did not know how to face Washidu. Bei Yunj, what a bad move. She calmly took a deep breath and went upstairs. In front of the desk, Bei Yunj casually combed her black hair with a pen. Only a small strand of hair was left in front of her ears. How would I know that there was such a thing? Bei Yunj couldn't help muttering to herself as her slender fingers twirled the pen. But in the end, she still touched him. An hour later, Bei Yunj went downstairs to get some water. She didn't expect to see the man standing sideways at the long table pouring water. Brother? It was Bei Yunj's first time seeing Washidu wearing a black cotton shirt. It was very textured. The shirt was neatly tucked into his suit pants. His shoulders were wide and his waist was narrow. His long legs were too abstinent. However, at this moment, the man's eyes were deep. His posture was lazy and sexy. The 2 buttons on his collar were loose, revealing his exquisite collarbone. His entire person was lustful and frivolous. It was simply a criminal temptation. Huh? Chapter 236. Why was his hair wet? Bei Yunj saw that Washidu didn't say anything and looked at him again. The man's gaze was different too. The light in his eyes was completely hidden. It was ambiguous and dark, as if he was blatantly seducing her. Bei Yunja's gaze seemed to have been burned. She quickly looked away and asked, "Why is your hair wet? Did you drink?" He still smelled of alcohol. Bei Yunj frowned unconsciously and suddenly remembered something. The last time at the Qin family's old residence, Huashidu seemed to have smelled of alcohol too, and he looked a little strange. Could it be that he couldn't drink? "Don't tell me you fought with someone?" Bei Yunja's beautiful eyes moved. Before she could finish speaking, the man suddenly leaned closer. He leaned over and looked straight at her. He said casually, "It's little Yunyan." Bei Yunja's heart suddenly beat faster when she was suddenly stared at like that. "Forget it." Bei Yunj didn't intend to ask further. She pulled the man's sleeve and wanted to bring him upstairs. Who knew? The man suddenly grabbed her wrist with one hand and leaned lazily on the long table. He reached out to her head again. "You..." Before Bei Yunj could finish speaking, Huashidu suddenly took off the fountain pen that was coiled around Bei Yunja's hair. At that moment, Bei Yunja's black hair scattered, but her sparkling eyes were staring at him. The man seemed to be in a good mood. His eyes darkened even more, and his magnetic and pleasant laughter sounded in a low voice. "Call me brother and I'll return it to you." Bei Yunj looked at his wet hair and said gently, "Are you going to take a shower later?" Suddenly, Bei Yunj was gently knocked on the head. "You only want to take advantage of me all day long?" The handsome and noble man's posture was light and lazy. His voice was long, as if he wanted to seduce her. Bei Yunj was speechless. Hence, Bei Yunja's good temper in her life was almost used up today. In the bedroom, after Bei Yunj blew Huashidu's hair, she could tell that Huashidu's voice was a little hoarse and magnetic. It seemed that he had caught a cold. He didn't know what was going on today. Bei Yunj recalled the scene just now and her eyelids twitched. "Brother, why do you like to bully people after drinking?" The man didn't answer. It also attracted Bei Yunja's attention. "Brother, I'll get you some hot water to take a bath. Don't go out." Bei Yunj softened her tone again. "You've caught a cold. You have to get better soon, right?" The man's eyes fell on her without an inch of avoidance. Seeing her bright eyes looking at him, his eyes unconsciously darkened. "Yes." Huashidu's voice was low and magnetic. Seeing this, before Bei Yunj could breathe a sigh of relief, she suddenly heard a voice coming from downstairs. It was very light, but it gradually became clear. "Shidu? Shidu?" Old Madame Hua must have gone upstairs. When Bei Yunj heard this, she was about to walk out of the door when she suddenly remembered that this was Huashidu's bedroom. Bei Yunj was speechless. At this time, if she went out, old Madame Hua might get engaged to her brother at the end of the year. Thinking of old Madame Hua's urgent mood, Bei Yunj felt that she could not let old Madame Hua see her in the bedroom. However, she did not know what would happen if she left Huashidu alone here. Bei Yunj turned her head and looked at Huashidu for a long time. She only thought of one idea. After the old madam went upstairs. Chapter 237. Alas, let's go find sister. Mo pulled Alas in disgust in a childish voice. Alas tilted his head as if he didn't understand anything and just circled around his little master. "Grandma, I'm going to find sister." Mo held Alas' hand and said happily. Go, go." Old Madame Hua frowned. After turning on the lights, she only saw the hairdryer on the table. She muttered to herself, "Why isn't he here? He should have just come back." Old Madame Hua muttered in the bedroom and walked around. At this moment, Bei Yunj was huddled in the corner of the closet. Her entire body was a little stiff, but she couldn't move for fear of being discovered. The more she thought about it, the more she couldn't understand what the person who hid in the closet was thinking. Wasn't he sullen? Until Bei Yunja's ear suddenly felt an itchy heat. The man's low and magnetic voice was lazy and sexy. It made her ears burn. "Yun, sit on brother's lap." Bei Yunja's entire body froze. and her heart beat uncontrollably fast. "Brother, you," before Bei Yunj could finish speaking, the man suddenly pulled her over. Her whole body was trapped in his arms, sitting on his lap. The pleasant cold fragrance around her was mixed with the smell of alcohol. The quiet and secluded space was filled with a sense of taboo. Before she could break free, she heard a low laughter in her ear again. It was ostentatious and ambiguous, making one's heart tremble. "Yunyun, do you want brother to recover faster from his cold?" This time, all of Bei Yunja's calmness and self-control were shattered. This man today was simply asking for her life. Not long after, Momo returned. "Grandma, sister isn't here either," Momo pursed his lips and said. It wasn't easy for him to come and see his sister. "All right, baby. Maybe your brother took Sister Pei out to play." Old Madame Hua coaxed, "Let's go back first, okay? But I want to wait for sister." Momo hesitated. Suddenly, a lass broke free from Momo's hand and ran towards the closet. He held a floral ribbon in his mouth and pulled it out happily. It was as if he had discovered something incredible. Inside the closet, Bei Yunja's eyelids twitched. She could only take a deep breath and take off her coat. She was completely unaware that in this narrow and dim environment, the man's eyes fell on her without hiding anything, and his eyes gradually darkened. "Momo, what is the lass talking about?" Old Madame Hua was puzzled. "I'll go take a look." Momo quickly ran over and found that a lass was pulling a floral ribbon. It looked a little like the belt on Sister Pei's clothes. "Momo? What is Eris doing?" After old Madame Hua asked, she was about to walk over again. "Grandma, it's nothing." Momo blinked and glanced at the wardrobe. Finally, she secretly pulled the tape from Alyssa's mouth. "Eris, we should go home. There's roast chicken tonight." After Momo finished speaking, Alyssa gave up on the idea of the belt. It happily rubbed its little master's cheek. Seeing that old Madame Hua had finally left, Bei Yunj also breathed a sigh of relief. She liked Momo more and more. Fortunately, there was Momo otherwise. If she was discovered, she was really afraid that old Madame Hua would contact her old master on the spot. However, when Bei Yunj thought of this man's actions just now, her eyelids could not help but twitch. "You did it on purpose." Bei Yunj stared at Huashidu and said expressionlessly. The man leaned lazily against the wooden board. "Huh." Chapter 238. Bei Yunj was speechless. Seeing this, the man's low and hoarse laughter was hopelessly sexy. "Yunyun, what's wrong?" Bei Yunja's eyebrows moved. She wanted to stand up, but she tripped over something in the dark and fell back into the man's arms. Bei Yunj seemed to have accidentally poked the man's firm abdomen. She heard him grunt softly, making her blush and her heart race. "Brother, Before Bei Yunj could finish explaining, she met the man's eyes. The man leaned against the wooden board. His gaze was frivolous and his eyes were dark. His entire aura was lustful and deadly. However, at this moment, Bei Yunj started to notice the man's Adam's apple through the dark light. But in the next moment, Bei Yunj quickly looked away. Seeing this, the man's lips curled up imperceptibly. Before Bei Yunj could react, he suddenly leaned closer. He lowered his voice and laughed cynically. "Where did you touch me just now, little greedy cat?" At this moment, Bei Yunj was really about to explode. The next day, Huashidu woke up very early. However, when he was reading the newspaper downstairs and waiting for Bei Yunj to come downstairs to eat, he saw the little girl glance at him and sit down at the table. "Thank you, Aunt Meow." After Bei Yunj thanked Aunt Meow, who brought the dishes over, she continued eating. Huashidu did not know how he had offended this child. During the meal, Huashidu scooped the porridge slowly, but his gaze was fixed on Bei Yunj. "Yunyun, I'm full. Brother, eat slowly." Bai Yunj suddenly stood up and smiled at him. With that said, Bai Yunj took her backpack and left. The man tapped his fingertips on the table and thought for a moment. Aunt Meow, what's wrong with Yun? Aunt Meow, ah? Sir, I'm sorry, I'm not too sure about this either. My child had a high fever last night, so I cooked dinner and went home. Huashidu narrowed his eyes. Yes, it's fine. Maybe she's not in a good mood. Sir, you can coax her more. Miss Pei is quite cute. I like her very much too. Auntie Meow smiled. Yes, she's cute. He laughed casually. When a little girl is angry, she's like a cat with its fur standing on end. However, he had a feeling that there was something that made the little girl so unhappy. On this day, the sensation that spread from abroad to within the country shocked everyone. Even the top 3 on the headlines were slaughtered. Hashtag Delaney Group's new technology hashtag country our computing institute, Delaney Group hashtag don't say knowledge can't change fate hashtag in the past, news from the scientific research community rarely made it to the top of the list. But this time, it really shocked everyone. As the most high-end technology group abroad, the Delaney Group had actually signed more than $1 billion worth of technology rights. If converted to their country's currency, it would be 10 billion. Furthermore, the usage period was only 5 years. Even the Delaney Group, which was famous for being stingy, had been ruthlessly squeezed dry. This made the netizens excited. No way, 10 billion? Back then, those who said that they were doing scientific research and didn't earn much came over and counted. How many zeros are there? What a ruthless move. Ha 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 ha, I heard that she's the new ace member of Country R's Computing Institute. And she's a young lady from our country. Chapter 239. Our country? This is too glorious. To be honest, the only person our country can really produce is Zhong Xinglin, heir. She shouldn't be young anymore. It's a little weird to call her a little sister, I want to argue. Then why didn't she stay in the country? Is the air overseas sweeter? Question, I'm convinced. There's even a contrarian here. Did he lose his mind from chasing celebrities? Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Are you treating the big boss as a popular celebrity? Take care of your street, understand? At the Computing Institute. Old master, look at this news. Is it talking about our master Pei? After interacting with Bai Yunj, Si Qingyan's relationship was quite good. He did not care that Bai Yunj was a few years younger than him. What the hell? Zhong Xinglin put on his glasses and scanned the news. His old face darkened and he started to gnash his teeth. That B** starred really got off easy. F***CK. It's really Master Pei? Si Qingyan was shocked. Zhong Xinglin slapped the back of Si Qingyan's head. New member. In the past 2 years, other than her, has Country R's Computing Institute recruited anyone else? He was heartbroken again. Look at you again. You're also a new member, but you joined our institute a year or 2 earlier. What did you do? She entered the institute for a month and gave Country R's Computing Institute a 10 billion yuan project. She made the headlines and was in the limelight. What about you? Si Qingyan was speechless. Not everyone would be able to get 10 billion in their lifetime, okay? Zhong Xinglin's gaze became even more determined. No, I have to poach her as soon as possible. This was really a mistake of 100 million yuan per second. Not only Zhong Xinglin, even Stephen, who was hiding in his office and eating instant noodles, was speechless. Was Marcus's luck exploding? Why was their institute so lucky this year? Cheng Zihuai, who had also seen this explosive news, had a dark gaze. Zihuai, what are you thinking about? Qin Yojiao smiled. She had just finished styling herself when she saw the news on Cheng Zihuai's phone screen. Qin Yojiao raised an eyebrow and teased deliberately, I wonder how old a female researcher with such achievements is. But I believe that you will be able to do the same in the future. Hearing this, Qing Zihuai did not agree. He was indeed talented, but that was only when compared to ordinary people. The ace member of the Computing Institute of Country R was one of the rarest of geniuses. There was no way she could be compared to her. Zihuai, what's wrong? Why are you so unhappy? Qin Yushao asked with a coy smile. Qing Zihuai snapped back to his senses and shook his head. You know this person too. I know. Qin Yojiao froze. Qing Zihuai clenched his fists and pursed his lips. It's the teacher I wanted to follow before. This is her project. These words surprised Qin Yojiao as well. She had never thought that the teacher Qing Zihuai wanted to follow would have such ability. It was no wonder that Qing Zihuai had been depressed for so long when he did not get this connection back then. However, after seeing this news, Qing Zihuai was probably not in a good mood now. After all, if he had become this person's student back then, the Qing family would have risen because of this person. She's too arrogant. Chapter 240. Qin Yojiao said with a frown. Ranwo Pavilion. Hearing this, no matter how unbalanced Qing Zihuai felt, he knew very well that if that person wanted students, there would indeed be a large number of outstanding students willing to follow her. She's indeed amazing. Qing Zihuai's eyes darkened, but he was thinking about something else. Marcus had told him that this person was also in Yuncheng. So, if he found this person, there might be a chance for her to accept him. Zihuai, I believe you'll be like her in the future, Qin Yojiao said with a smile. Hearing this, Qing Zihuai caressed her head and said with a smile, aren't you going to do a live stream? Go do the live stream first. I've already informed a few uncles I know in advance. If there are any resources, I'll push them to you first. Zihuai, you're so good to me. Qin Yojiao said coquettishly. Until Friday. The headline started to be related to the Qin family again. The reason was that Qin Yojiao had accidentally revealed during the live stream that Bei Yunj had chased away Fang Gisheng and found another, famous doctor, to operate on old Master Qin. The moment this news came out, many netizens started to scold Bei Yunj for being unfilial. No matter how much she fought with Qin Yojiao, there was no need to take the old master's life lightly. Then, the marketing account of Qin Yojiao's contract company even exposed all sorts of things. They said that Bei Yunj did this for the family assets. Because old Master Qin liked Bei Yunj, most of the Qin family's assets were left to Bei Yunj. With this news, more people were filled with righteous indignation. *CK, old Master Qin likes her so much. Is she crazy? My heart aches for old Master Qin. If this is true, the Qin family has really attracted an ingrate. Qin Yojiao was scolded so badly a while ago. She's cleared her name now? Isn't it too fast? Indeed, this elder young miss wants to debut. The moment a certain someone debuted, she wanted to trample on another young lady no matter what. I don't know what illness she has. Jealousy? Confused, the two people above, let's earn money together. Back then, Qin Yojiao was the one who apologized and was even scolded. I think the real scheming person is that young lady who has never appeared before, right? Relying on Director Lin to clear her name, I feel bad that Director Lin still has to use her reputation to clean up the mess for some people in her later years. Not long after, more insiders began to reveal the truth. Director Lin's character is impeccable. However, if some people did not want to learn well, it would be useless even if the Daluo Immortal personally taught them. She's the daughter of Director Lin, but she's actually at the bottom of the level. Qin Yojiao is already second in the level. Gradually, the public's impression of Bei Yunj began to decline. In the office. Jiao, the company has already arranged for someone to follow Bei Yunj. When the time comes, we will be able to get a picture of who she invited for the surgery. But, are you sure that she won't hire any experts? The manager asked with a smile. Qin Yojiao drank the black tea and smiled at her. Are you sure that there's someone in the country who's better than Fang Gishing in this aspect? Although she did not know why Fang Gishing had left in anger, this might be because Bai Yunj had played some tricks. That's good. As long as you trample on her, your image as a young lady will be stable. Hearing this, the smile on Qin Yojiao's face froze. The word image had hit her where it hurt. Her eyes darkened as she pursed her lips. The young lady of the Qin family did not need Bai Yunj's existence. She would make this person disappear. Same as the Almighty. Chapter 241. However. Calligraphy Pavilion. More good. What made Qin Yojiao even more uneasy was that she seemed to be the only one in the entire industry who knew that Yu Manran was actually the eldest young lady of the Yu family. At that time, if Yu Manran's identity was exposed, it would probably affect her quite a bit. Sister, do you know Yu Manran? Qin Yojiao asked calmly. Yes. I don't know where she found a composer this year. She became popular with just one song and her popularity is higher than the A-list now. Even they had their sights set on the composer. However, they could not get any information at all. It was said that it was someone Yu Manran knew. Sister, can you find that composer? Qin Yojiao said with a smile, she can bid as much as she wants. I want her to write a song for me. In the evening. When Stephen found out about this, he was so angry that smoke was coming out of his head. I'm a pheasant expert. Did you hear that? Did you hear what old Zhong said? F***CK, I'm going to sue those keyboard warriors. Stephen's face flushed red. He had never suffered such grievances in his life. Inspector, calm down. Our institute hasn't earned 1 billion yuan, where would we get so much money to sue? The assistant immediately said gently. Stephen was speechless. If this brat hadn't been with him for so many years, he really wanted to fire him. Miss Pei said that Dr. Fong went to post an explanation. Don't be anxious. When they know who did the surgery, they won't dare to be so impudent. That's true. At this thought, Stephen's mood improved. He laughed coldly. A bunch of ignorant brats. I want to see if they still dare to talk nonsense when they know who they are scolding. Seeing Stephen's noble and cold expression, the assistant's eyelids twitched. Yes, you're right. What happened this time was beyond his expectations. Fang Gisheng, who had just gotten off work and was about to have a candlelit dinner with his wife, was shocked. Then, his face darkened. Who was the one who complained that his life was too comfortable? Did they have to drag him out and be mocked by the entire internet? However, not long after. The internet was still in a heated discussion. Following this, Fang Gisheng's clarification video became the focus of everyone's attention as soon as it was released. It was crazily viewed and forwarded. Fang Gisheng, who was shooting the video, was wearing ordinary clothes. He didn't look too good, but he said a few words politely. He had confirmed that the attending doctor hired by Bai Yunj was indeed more experienced than he was. He hoped that everyone could relax and stop attacking others. However, as the number of views of this video increased, there were actually people who started the momentum. Dr. Fong doesn't look too well, a certain heiress is 666. How could she threaten an innocent doctor? Just look at it. He's very reluctant to shoot a video. Is there anyone else who will wash Bai Yunja's clothes? Dr. Fong, blink when you're being threatened. We support you. Stephen sat in front of the computer and translated the comments one by one. His expression gradually turned ugly. These people really wanted to satisfy their own fantasies. Everything was said according to what they thought. There's no need to be angry, Stephen. They hate me, not you. Bai Yunj smiled lazily. That won't do. What right do they have to criticize you? Stephen was so angry that his face darkened. He might as well. He found the official social media account of Country A that the Our Nation Medical Institute had registered a few years ago. Guru Tong. Chapter 242. Stephen sneered. I'd like to see what else they can make up. After that, Stephen hung up the phone after exchanging a few more words with Bei Yunj. Calligraphy pavilion more good. She couldn't wait for those stupid humans to open their eyes wide and take a good look at who the pheasant expert they were talking about was. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched when she was hung up on. She sent a message to her assistant to remind Stephen to board the plane. Not long after. She thought for a moment, opened the social media app, and scrolled through the headlines. She clicked on it and saw that the first post was a video about Dr. Fong. However, just as everyone was scolding Dr. Fong, someone suddenly noticed that a big shot had liked the video. They clicked on the profile picture and found that it was a verified official account. Country R's Medical Research Institute. Everyone? What was going on? Why would Country R's Medical Research Institute like Dr. Fong when they had nothing to do with him? Then, just as they were feeling uneasy, they saw that the official account that had not been updated for a few years suddenly reposted Dr. Fong's clarification post. What was going on? Could it be that the expert Bei Yunj hired was from Country R's Medical Research Institute? Many people couldn't help but gasp when they saw this. However, they were also puzzled. How did Bei Yunj know someone from Country R's Medical Research Institute? Could it be that it was also because of Director Lin? Director Lin's social circle was too wide, wasn't it? Because Country R's Medical Research Institute had publicly reposted the video, Qin Yojiao's team, who was manipulating public opinion, didn't know what to do for a moment. They could only wait and see. At this time, the netizens were also confused. I've checked. Director Stephen of Country R's Medical Research Institute is an expert in this field. He's a world-famous expert. Oh my god, Bei Yunj is too amazing, isn't she? What does this have to do with Bei Yunj? Even if it is, it's Director Lin's credit. Don't joke around. Do you believe it? Everyone in the circle knows that Stephen's surgery volume is limited in a year. Even if Bei Yunj is booked, it won't be this year. Stephen even performed surgery for her family. The Qin family is nothing in the world. Do you understand? The person above is harsh, but it's the truth. Stephen's number of surgeries is limited. This year's patients were confirmed in March. Bei Yunj skimmed through these comments and returned to the Computing Institute. Master Pei, quick. Come and take a look at my project. See if there's anything that can be improved. The moment he saw Bei Yunj, Si Qingyan enthusiastically pulled Bei Yunj to his research lab. Brat, stop right there. Zhong Xinglin suddenly appeared and immediately separated the two of them. Take care of your own projects. Don't take shortcuts. With that said, Zhong Xinglin looked at Bei Yunj gently. Yunj, I heard that the contract you signed with Marcus is for 3 months. When Si Qingyan heard this topic, he knew what the old master was up to again. He had not managed to poach her after so long. He even complained that he was hindering him from poaching her. After Si Qingyan left, Bei Yunj smirked. I was in urgent need of money back then, so I signed for 3 months. What about now? Zhong Xinglin asked urgently. Elder Zhong, you can see that Marcus is very good to me, said Lin Feng. Bei Yunj's eyes curved. So, at least for now, I can't think about this. Same as the Almighty. Chapter 243. Bei Yunj's meaning was clear. She was indebted to Marcus for recognizing her worth. Even if she had not promised Marcus that she would stay in their institute in the future, at least she could not decide to come to the Computing Institute at this time. Hearing this, Zhong Xinglin's heart ached even more. What kind of luck did Marcus have? He really met someone like Bei Yunj, who was sentimental about old ties. Yunj, I understand what you mean. But if you choose the Domestic Computing Institute, I sincerely hope that you can choose our Computing Institute first. Zhong Xinglin smiled. Although I might not be able to offer the generous conditions that Marcus offered, it's a private computing institute. If you're willing, I hope you can be my successor. With that said, Bei Yunja's eyelashes fluttered and she looked up at him again. Usually, even if it was a private research institute, it seemed that more people would want their children to inherit it. Just like in her previous life, as a well-known physicist in the industry, Mrs. Pei had also nurtured Bei Yunj in that area, hoping that Bei Yunj would inherit her physics institute. In the end, Bei Yunj secretly opened a computing institute herself. Because of this, Mrs. Pei was so angry that she did not speak to Bei Yunj for a month. Thank you, Elder Zhong. Bei Yunj said with a smile. You don't have to be too stressed. My grandson is indeed studying computing, but his aptitude is average and he can't control the computing institute. What I hope more is that the computing institute can be passed down and walk towards glory. Zhong Xinglin looked at the long term and focused more on the computing industry in country A. As for his grandson, he had also left behind a lot of family assets, enough for them to live in peace for the rest of their lives. Saturday. Bei Yunj went to the airport and received her quietly. About 10:30 p.m. A tall middle-aged man with blonde hair and blue eyes came out. Bei Yunj recognized Stephen at a glance from the photos online. At the same time, although Stephen had just gotten off the plane, he was still refreshed. He said excitedly and happily, "Tisk, let's walk faster. Maybe Yunj is waiting." The assistant was speechless. "She's not your granddaughter. Why are you so happy to see her?" Suddenly, Stephen and Selena saw a beautiful young girl walking towards them. Bei Yunj took off her mask, revealing her delicate and beautiful face. She smiled and said, "Stephen, we finally meet." Stephen froze when he heard this familiar voice. This was Yunj. Stephen could not come back to his senses for a long time. He had heard Marcus brag that their Yunj was especially beautiful and did not believe it for a moment. But now, this standard Oriental beauty's face was really hard to find fault with. Especially the bright and beautiful expression between her eyebrows, it was unforgettable. "Yunj, I really didn't expect you to look like this." After a while, Stephen couldn't help but laugh. "Let's go. I'll be a good host and take the two of you to dinner." Bei Yunj chuckled. "Sure. This Yun city is really not bad." Stephen laughed loudly. However, in the corner, a sneaky young man secretly took a picture of Bei Yunj and Stephen walking together. However, what he did not expect was that Bei Yunj did not bring her to the hospital. Instead, they went to a scenic spot to play. He thought for a moment and called Qin Yojiao's manager to tell her about this. "You don't have to let me see it. Just post it online. Just say that Bei Yunj hired a quack overseas and is eating, drinking, and having fun with others. She doesn't take old Master Qin's illness to heart." Chapter 244. This. What if he's not a quack? The young man could not help but hesitate. Then we have to post it even more. The manager chuckled. If that person cures old Master Qin, what's the point of posting it? On the other hand, if we do this, more people will think that Bei Yunj is gambling. I got it. The young man nodded and stopped following Bei Yunj and the rest. "Inspector, Miss Pei, someone followed us and took photos secretly just now." With that said, Stephen, who was eating soup dumplings, almost choked. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" At this moment, Bei Yunj said slowly, "I saw it. It's alright, I'll delete it later." When she said this, those who didn't know would almost think that Bei Yunj was planning to delete her post. Only Stephen vaguely remembered how Bei Yunj made the headlines back then. There's no need for that. Stephen patted his chest, his expression confident. "Don't worry, leave this to me." Then, Stephen pulled Bei Yunj and his assistant along and took a photo as a souvenir. Soon, he posted it on his social media app and Marcus's phone. Soon, Marcus sent messages crazily. "You went for a meal with Yunj? Are you there? Let me show you Yunj's Computing Institute identity card." Smile, how childish. Do you think I can be angry? Boring. Huh, I've blocked you. Goodbye, brother. After reading this long string of messages, the corners of Stephen's lips twitched. Wasn't this childish enough? He wasn't angry. In the afternoon. In the ward. Dad, I've said it before. This isn't a child who grew up in our family after all. We don't know her background. You're still. Before Mrs. Chin could finish speaking, she was interrupted by Old Master Chin. If you continue to spout nonsense, I'll get Chin Ting to send you back to your parents' home. These words made Mrs. Chin open her mouth with an ugly expression, but she didn't know what to say. Are you still worthy of being a mother? You're so righteous even when you talk bad about your daughter. Shameless. Once Old Master Chin was angered, he felt dizzy. The nurse beside him quickly comforted Old Master Chin, telling him not to get angry. Mrs. Chin pursed her lips and said, but the news on the internet was also taken by someone else. It can't be that someone deliberately tried to harm her. Who took it? I'll get my lawyer to sue him right now. Upon hearing Old Master Chin's words, Mother Chin's face turned green and red. She was speechless. She couldn't hope for Grandpa Shing to come to his senses. Hey, this person looks familiar, the nurse suddenly said. Mrs. Chin's eyes lit up. You know him? Who is it? Old Master Chin glanced at Mrs. Chin. Disgust flashed across his eyes, and he closed his eyes impatiently. Let me think. The nurse racked her brains and felt that this person looked very familiar. A few minutes later, Mrs. Chin became a little anxious. She suddenly exclaimed, I remember now. This is Stephen. What Stephen? Mrs. Chin suddenly had a bad premonition. The director of Country R's Medical Institute, Stephen. The nurse looked at Old Master Chin enviously. Mr. Stephen rarely takes on surgeries. This year, his surgeries are full. Miss Pei must have put in a lot of effort for you. She's so good to you. She's a filial girl. Upon hearing this, Mrs. Chin's face turned pale and her eyes lost focus. How could this be? How could Bei Yunj invite such a person? Chapter 245. Could it be Director Lin? But how could Director Lin have such a wide network? Look, this is someone who can even step on her own daughter. Old Master Chin laughed coldly. Mrs. Chin wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, she could only bite her lip with a red face and remain silent. At this moment, a group of netizens who did not know the situation were about to tear into each other. A certain young lady is really interesting to go out and play with an old man at this time. I really feel bad for Director Lin. Even if you blow up your account this time, I still want to scold you. You just can't compare to Qin Yojiao. Don't you know that? Why are you scolding Bei Yunj? A group of people are confused and think that they are righteous. Don't you know how to write the word cyberbullying? This kind of B*TCH should have such extravagance. If you have the ability, blow up my account. The matter was full of twists and turns, and it was getting more and more confusing. However, under the guidance of Qin Yojiao's marketing team, it still went in the direction they wanted. However, it wasn't long before another shocking scene appeared. A few minutes later, Qin Yu, who had been filming overnight for 2 days, immediately reposted that post when he saw it. Qin Yu? Smile. As for Qin Lang, who was training and had his phone confiscated, there was no movement. However, to everyone's surprise, Qin Lang's studio reposted Qin Yu's comment immediately after. Crush Qin Lang's studio? Smile. In less than a minute, the comments exploded. Ha 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 ha, they're here. They're here. They're here with the anger of a sister complex. It's about to start. Is Brother Lang's studio trying to make me laugh to death? Shao sure, I'll protect Brother Lang's sister. Reporting, second sister-in-law's fans have gathered. Reporting, will gather again after third sister-in-law's fans finish eating. Sob sob sob, dog head, I'm speechless. So what if you have a best actor brother and an esports player brother? Are you relying on your fans to clear your name? I'm scared. You have a lot of fans and you're awesome, okay? Entertainers are ruining the country. Qin Yu and Qin Lang had many fans, but more importantly, this matter made people have a bad impression of Bei Yunj. As a result, some of Qin Yu and Qin Lang's fans were still persuading them to delete this post. After all, it was really too much. But who knew? At this moment, a certain group that was usually rarely active suddenly reposted Qin Yu's post as if they had agreed. Research Institute, Zhongxinglin. Smile, Dean of Biology of Yunqing University. Smile, the former principal of Yunqing University. Smile, Professor Yu Guang. Smile, Yunqing University Medical Dean. Smile, our nation's Medical Research Institute. Smile, this scene made one's scalp tingle. Everyone? Did he break through the dimension? What was going on? Was half of the scientific research community mobilized? Soon. Everyone saw that country R's Medical Research Institute had reposted someone's post. Our nation's Medical Research Institute, Heart, our nation's Medical Research Institute, Stephen, my friend and me, picture. At this moment, everyone was shocked. So, the old man who was rumored to be having fun with Bei Yunj was Stephen, the director of the Our Nation's Medical Institute? F***CK. What a deity. DBQ Mr. Stephen, I actually didn't recognize you. Is Bei Yunj a big boss harvester? Chapter 246. Lin Lanjun is her grandmother, and Stephen is her friend. The moment something happened to her, half of the scientific research field and two cis-obsessed brothers protected her. I'm so jealous, I'm jealous. Goodbye, I'm starting to understand why Dr. Fong's expression isn't too good. This isn't an expert, but an ancestor. The one who offended him is the ancestor, the biological daughter of the big shots. The little darling of the brothers? Please, Master Pei, write an autobiography of the group's love. The moment Qin Yojiao debuted, Bei Yunj was scolded and became a trending topic, isn't that so? You're trying your best to push Bei Yunj away, but she's really loved by the group. On the internet, the people who had followed the trend to slander Bei Yunj seemed to have disappeared without a trace. On the contrary, only the haters who had started to slander Qin Yojiao were left. In the office, Qin Yojiao's expression was terrible and she wanted to smash her phone. She never thought that this matter would take such an unrealistic turn that was even more unrealistic than a dream. Jiao, this is quite unexpected. But don't worry, the company's public relations are already handling it. Don't worry. The manager was also anxious, but Qin Yojiao had just signed with their company, so it was not good for her to act like she was flustered. Thank you, sister. Qin Yojiao's expression improved slightly. At least, she still had a company behind her now, so she would not be too outnumbered. At the Hua Corporation. Tsing Su, apart from telling you about the parent-teacher conference last time, what else did Yunyun say? Hua Shidu thought of how the little girl was throwing a tantrum and asked casually. I think so. With that said, Tsing Su saw that his Master Du seemed to be thinking about something. Master Du, did you have a fight with Miss Pei? Hua Shida glanced at him and did not say anything. This situation made it difficult for Tsing Su to understand. However, Tsing Su suddenly remembered what had happened in the past 2 days. Master Du, have you seen the recent headlines? What's wrong? Hua Shidu looked up and asked. It's that Miss Pei was maliciously slandered. However, the two young masters of the Qin family and some seniors in the scientific research field are very protective of Miss Pei. Currently, this matter has been resolved. Tsing Su couldn't help but exclaim when he thought of the melon he had eaten. Especially the phrase, big boss harvester, it was simply very popular. Aside from the big shots they knew, if anyone else found out that this little princess was living in the home of the president of the Hua Corporation, they would probably have a mental breakdown. Malicious? Huashidu's pale-colored eyes gradually turned cold and deep. There was an unfathomable danger in them. It's the tricks of the entertainment industry. The other Miss Qin of the Qin family has signed with an entertainment company. I'm guessing that the entertainment company is personally involved. After Tsing Su finished speaking, he added carefully, Master Du, do you need me to show my face? Next time. This would also prevent those people from thinking that Miss Pei had no one backing her. There's no need. Huashidu narrowed his eyes nonchalantly. His deep voice was emotionless. You caused trouble for my child. How can there be a second chance? Hearing this, Tsing Su immediately understood. Master Du didn't intend to let that company continue to operate. Tsing Su, okay. When he returned, Huashidu saw the young lady quickly greeting him and going upstairs. He didn't even look up when he was eating. The next day, Bai Yunj had just gone downstairs when she saw Yu Hanran and Huashidu sitting together. Before she could leave, she heard the man say, Yun Yun. Chapter 247. At this moment, Yu Hanran also noticed Bai Yunj. He had a teasing look in his eyes, wanting to see how this couple interacted every day. From Huashidu's casual question, the two of them seemed to be quarreling. What's wrong? Bai Yunj turned around and looked at him with curved eyes. Come here. Hearing this, Bai Yunj glanced at him and then glanced at Yu Hanran, who was waiting for a good show. She walked towards Huashidu. When Huashidu saw this, the corners of his lips curled up slightly. He stood up and narrowed his eyes casually. He held her wrist with one hand and took off the rubber band. It's too hot outside. With that said, Huashidu stood in front of the girl and reached out. His slender and well-defined fingers gently lifted her curly hair and slowly tied it up for the girl. This scene made the smile on Yu Hanran's face freeze. Wait a minute. Shouldn't they be quarreling? Why did he let him see such a scene? After tying her ponytail, Bai Yunj glanced at Huashidu. Actually, she had long lost her temper. I'm going to the hospital. I'll be back later. Bai Yunj touched her hair. Okay. Huashidu curled his lips and reached out to rub her jawline. Yu Hanran was speechless. Hey, guys, am I invisible? In the morning, Stephen was undergoing surgery. Almost 4 hours later, the door to the operating theater opened. The surgery was very successful. Old Master will be fine after resting well. The other doctor smiled and could not help but say to Bai Yunj, it's all thanks to Miss Pei that I have the chance to share the stage with Mr. Stephen. You must be joking. Bai Yunj smiled. However, in the eyes of the Qin couple, this scene caused them to have complicated feelings. They had always felt that Bai Yunj was a loner and had no friends. They did not expect her to be friends with Stephen. They did not know how they got to know each other. It's been hard on you this time. Mr. Qin stepped forward and said gently. Bai Yunj's tone was indifferent. It's my duty. The smile on Mr. Qin's face froze. Of course, he knew that Bai Yunj was so attentive because of old Master Li, otherwise, if it were him or Mother Qin, Bai Yunj probably wouldn't even look at them. Mr. Qin's eyes darkened. You and Jiao Jiao, Yunj, isn't it time to go eat? Stephen's voice sounded. Bai Yunj turned around and saw that Stephen was still in good spirits. She smiled and said, well, I have a friend later. Do you mind? What's there to mind? Stephen said and went to change his clothes. The two of them chatted in a familiar tone, as if they were old friends. However, the age difference was a little too big. Mr. Qin, if there's nothing else, I'll go back first. Mr. Qin reacted and quickly nodded. Okay. Be careful, Next. Even after Bai Yunj left, Mr. Qin's expression was still gloomy. Mrs. Qin stepped forward and said angrily. Didn't I ask you to tell her to put in a good word for Jiao Jiao? Hearing this, Mr. Qin felt annoyed for no reason. Gu is the one who suffers every time. Why must she listen to me? With that said, Mrs. Qin was stunned for a moment. She could not imagine that these words would come from his mouth. Qin Ting, what do you mean? Bei Yunj is your daughter, but Jiao Jiao isn't? Mrs. Qin suddenly became agitated. She's my daughter to begin with. Mr. Qin reprimanded angrily. Chapter 248. Mrs. Qin's eyes widened as she stared at Mr. Qin in disbelief. All right, you don't want Jiao Jiao anymore? Mr. Qin was furious. Look at what Jiao Jiao has become. She didn't do it on purpose the first time, but what about the second and third time? Every time something happens to Gu, it's related to her. How can I believe her? With that said, suddenly, the sound of something falling to the ground sounded not far away. Mr. and Mrs. Qin turned around and saw Qin Yojiao looking at Mr. Qin in disbelief and grievance with red eyes. At this moment, Mr. Qin panicked inexplicably. After all, this was the child he had doted on for almost 20 years. Jiao Jiao, Qin Yojiao turned around and ran away with red eyes. It's all your fault. How can Bei Yunj compare to Jiao Jiao? Why are all of you slowly standing on her side? Mrs. Qin's heart ached. Looking at the thermos box that had fallen to the ground, she immediately went forward to pick it up. Jiao Jiao is a filial child. If she hears what you said, she will definitely be very sad. Mrs. Qin panicked as well. For a moment, Mr. Qin felt complicated and guilty. He could only turn his face away and pinch the space between his eyebrows tiredly. How could he not want to have a happy family? However, it just so happened that he had carried the wrong child back then. Now, facing his two daughters, he did not know what to do. At noon, Chu Zhixing stood at the entrance of the hospital and waited, feeling inexplicably nervous. Until Bei Yunj's voice sounded. Xiao Chu. Chu Zhixing turned around and saw Bei Yunj walking over alone. Yunj, how's Grandpa Qin? The surgery was very successful. However, Bei Yunj was a little surprised that Chu Zhixing's first concern was her grandfather. She thought that this fellow should be more concerned about Country R's medical institute. That's good. Chu Zhixing heaved a sigh of relief and nodded. Oh right, who is the person you said you like from Country R's medical institute? Bei Yunj asked again. Hearing this, Chu Zhixing became even more nervous. Mr. Stephen. Bei Yunj was speechless. At this moment, Chu Zhixing suddenly remembered what had happened on the internet yesterday. His eyelids twitched and he took a deep breath calmly. Yunj, you said last time that you would help me talk about the application form. Don't tell me you're planning to look for Mr. Stephen? Yes, I only know him. Bei Yunj nodded without hiding anything. Seeing the complicated and regretful expression on Chu Zhixing's face, Bei Yunj couldn't help but smile. She glanced at her watch and then glanced at the elevator. Coincidentally, she saw Marcus change his clothes and come down. Suddenly, Chu Zhixing, who was in the midst of grief, heard an inexplicably familiar voice. Yunj, can we go to the supermarket later? Your country's instant noodles are really delicious. Stephen said happily. Chu Zhixing raised his head abruptly and saw the person he used to admire the most. This didn't seem to match the character he had in mind. Wasn't Mr. Stephen dressed in a suit and leather shoes every time he attended a meeting? Wasn't he cold and elegant? Although he wasn't very good at Country R's language, he understood the phrase, buy instant noodles. Okay, I'll send you a few boxes when the time comes. Bei Yunj didn't care much and suddenly said, oh right, this is my friend, Chu Zhixing. Mr. Stephen. Bei Yunj looked at Chu Zhixing and said concisely. After Chu Zhixing felt his idol's gaze, his body stiffened and he became nervous. Chapter 249. Hello, student Chu Zhixing. Stephen smiled, not putting on any airs on stage at all. However, for some reason, it made people want to get closer to him. Hello, Stephen was actually not a difficult person to get along with. However, Chu Zhixing's foreign language skills were not very good, so it was a little difficult for the two of them to communicate. However, after dinner, Stephen realized that the boy Bei Yunj brought was very talented in medicine. This made Stephen suddenly feel that Chu Zhixing was an unexpected surprise for him to come to Yuncheng. You signed up for our summer camp? Stephen could not help but laugh. Why don't you consider studying in country R? When the time comes, you can come into contact with our research institute earlier. Hearing this, Chu Zhixing almost dropped his chopsticks. Really, can I really do that? One had to know that the interns recruited by Country R's medical institute were all postgraduate students. Last time, the medicine Yunj asked me to make should be for you, right? Stephen chuckled. Since you're Yunj's friend, there aren't so many rules. Hearing this, Chu Zhixing was stunned for a moment before he realized that his medicine was made by Stephen, instantly. Chu Zhixing looked at the girl beside him, who was eating with her head buried in her food. His heart seemed to have been brushed by water. On this day, Qin Yu, who had just applied for leave from the director and was about to go to Bei Yunj's parent-teacher conference, suddenly received a call. Have you been home recently? The man's low and calm voice was very pleasant to the ears. However, Qin Yu was inexplicably vigilant. He laughed. I'll be back in a few days. Brother, what happened? Nothing. I prepared some gifts for everyone. The handsome man in the suite hid the coldness in the depths of his dark eyes. It was only when he thought of something that a hint of gentleness appeared. By the way, how's Gu? Hearing Qin Luyan ask about Bei Yunj the moment he came up, Qin Yu was alarmed. In the past, when eldest brother went abroad, he had never cared about Gu. Even Qin Yojiao was the same. She's pretty good. Qin Yu thought for a moment and repeated what had happened at home. When Qin Luyan heard that Qin Yojiao had been sent to stay with Mr. and Mrs. Qin by Qin Lang, his emotions did not fluctuate much. However, when he heard Qin Yu say that Bei Yunj had also gone out to stay, his eyes immediately darkened. She went out to stay. Where did a little girl like her go to live? Hearing his brother's voice darken, Qin Yu didn't dare to tell him that Gu was staying at his friend's house. Don't worry, it's someone I know. Some time ago, old master also saw him. There's no problem. Qin Yu leaned against the chair and chuckled. When Qin Luyan heard that, he remained silent for a while before saying unhurriedly, then it's not appropriate for our Qin family's young lady to live outside. I'll deal with this matter when I get back. Just focus on filming. After that, Qin Luyan hung up the phone. However, Qin Yu inexplicably felt that something was wrong. Big brother, this ice block, when would he start to care for Gu more? Didn't he not even ask about his parents? Qin Yu did not know what Qin Luyan meant by calling either. However, he knew that there would indeed be trouble with Qin Luyan's return. Qin Yojiao knew that he and Qin Lang would ignore her and would definitely think of ways to make eldest brother stand on her side. If that was the case, it would be troublesome. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.